Hey guys, welcome to Intellipaat. Today's session is on Tableau. Tableau is one of the most powerful business intelligence tool being deployed by most of the organization to find insightful information from their data. Keeping this in mind, we have come up with a very comprehensive tutorial on Tableau. So let's look at the agenda for today's session. We will start with introduction to Tableau. Then we will discuss how you can install Tableau desktop. Going further, we will look at Tableau architecture and learn how to use dimensions and measures in Tableau. Moving further, we will look at various file types in Tableau and we will learn about how you can use data joining and data blending in Tableau. And at last, we will look at various filters available in Tableau. So let's get started.
Basically, these Tableau products are divided into two types. The first is the developer tools and the second one is the sharing tools. So now developer tools is nothing but they are used to create the dashboards, the worksheets, basically your visualizations. So with the help of this developer tools, you create your visualizations, and with the help of the sharing tools, the visualizations that you've created using your developer tools are shared to audiences, right? I hope I'm being clear. Developer tools and sharing tools. So we have Tableau Desktop as the main developing tool, okay? And we have Tableau Public as well, right? So Tableau Desktop, we have two editions. We have personal and professional edition, okay? All your development work are done right here in your Tableau Desktop. You create your reports, you create your charts, and all the analysis process is done in your Tableau Desktop, right? And when it comes to Tableau Public, it serves, it is used for both the development and sharing purpose, right? You can develop your charts, your reports using Tableau Public as well. Okay, it is a free product offered by the Tableau company, but there's a limitation when it comes to Tableau Public. You can connect it only to a limited file types in which your data source must be, right? And there's no security when it comes to Tableau Public. Everyone can see your data when you publish your dashboard in Tableau Public. Okay, so this is about Tableau Public, right? And then we have the sharing tools. Okay, sharing tools, they use the developer tools in order to develop your visualizations, and then they share your visualizations to the audiences. Okay, we have Tableau Online and Tableau Server. Okay, I think Tableau Online is not mentioned over here, but we have Tableau Online and Tableau Server. We have two sharing tools. Okay, but one limitation, both, with the help of both Tableau Online and Tableau Server, you can publish your data. But the limitation of Tableau Online is that, editing of workbooks or any editing works are limited to the number of rows, and your server data connections is required when it comes to Tableau Online, right? So Tableau Online is also a sharing tool, but there's one limitation, which is nothing but editing of worksheets inside your Tableau Online is limited to the number of rows. Okay, and you need to have a server data connection in Tableau Online. But on the other hand, when it comes to Tableau Server, it is also a sharing tool. Okay, it is used to share and create visualizations for organizations especially, right? So now, why do organizations use Tableau Server? They can also use Tableau Public when it comes to publishing data. But when it comes to organizations, they need security. Yes, and Tableau Server is the sharing tool which is used by all the organizations because it comes with full security. Like the data of an organization is need to be secure, right? So for that purpose, Tableau Server is used as a sharing tool. So you can share your visualization, you can share your dashboard throughout your particular organization, right? You can decide to whom this particular visualization is to be shared, whether you need to share only the visualization or you need to share the visualization with the data to which particular member of the organization and so on. So you can decide on that point when it comes to Tableau server, right? So Tableau server is fully secure, okay, when it comes to your data. Okay, so you need to use your Tableau desktop first to create your visualization, and after that you will have to connect to your Tableau server. Your Tableau server will have a user ID and password which is provided by the organization for security reasons, and then after which you can publish your data into Tableau server, and you can decide who must view the data. Let's say your higher officials, your colleagues. You should decide who should view the data along, I mean, who should view the visualization and the dashboards that you've created, and who shouldn't, or who should view it along with the data, and so on. Okay, everything can be decided in your Tableau server for the security reasons. Okay, so that's why organizations prefer Tableau server when it comes to publishing the analysis, right? And we have something called Tableau Reader. So during the early days, so Tableau Reader was the only way for content creators to share the dashboard, right? We didn't have Tableau online or server, or to share the visualizations that was created. Okay, so they used to build visualizations using the Tableau desktop. Okay, and they used to share those visualizations using the Tableau Reader. Okay, and you can share the visualizations using the Tableau Reader throughout the organization without access to the desktop. So when people in your organization do not have access to the desktop, so when I say they do not have access to the desktop, it means they aren't supposed to have the access to the data itself, right? So in such cases, uh, such audiences will be provided with the visualizations using this Tableau Reader, right? So early days, this was the only sharing tool which was available, right? And we have something called Tableau Prep as well. So Tableau Prep is one of the latest products launched by the Tableau company. Okay, it's the Tableau's, you can say it's the ETL tool. It's the extract, transform, and load tool of Tableau. Okay, so Tableau Prep, it just prepares your data. Okay, it's a personal data preparation tool. I can call it a personal data preparation tool. Okay, it just allows the users, you can aggregate, you can cleanse, you can merge different rows if you need, I mean different columns, or otherwise you can, prepare the data for analysis in Tableau, right? You need, you will have some basic things that can be that need to be done to your data, and you need those options to be used during every analysis. Let's say you will need to split a particular column into two, or you will need to merge two columns into one, and you need this merge to be there in all your analysis, in all your, I mean every time you open your Tableau, you connect your Tableau with your data source, you need this merged column to be there always. You needn't go every time and keep merging or keep splitting. So this is just an example. Okay, so this Tableau Prep, okay, it prepares the data by which every time you will be given the prepared data for analysis. You needn't start from the scratch, right? I hope you understood about Tableau Prep as well. Okay, so these are the different products offered by the Tableau company. Okay, and so now this is our start page of Tableau. We are going to connect our Tableau with the sample superstore data which was provided by the Tableau company itself during the downloading process, right? So it is a Microsoft Excel file. So I'll just click on this, after which I'll be able to view all the Excel files available. Okay, I'll click on the sample superstore and I'll say open. So as you can see, my sample superstore, the name of my data source, it's visible over here. Okay, this is my data source page right here. Okay, the connection, it gives me the information about to which data source I am connected to, the name of my data source, the type the file type to which my data source belongs to. Okay, and you have the different sheets available. We have 3 sheets. So as you can see in my Excel file over here, we have 3 sheets: orders, people, and returns. Okay, we have 3 sheets available, and similarly you can see 3 different sheets over here, and these are nothing but the named ranges of these 3 sheets. So in Excel, whenever you create a sheet, a named range is automatically created. Okay, so it is, you know, just the same. It is just a copy of your actual sheet. Okay, and you there's just one small change between your sheet and your named range, right? Your table or your sheet, it's a defined grid of cells of data, right? And your named range, it is just one or more cells to which you have assigned a particular name, right? So I'll just give you a very simple example, okay? Just one point by which you'll understand why, what is the actual sheet and what is the named range all about, right? So for example, if I have a column in my uh, any one of my sheet, any one of my actual sheet, and that is nothing but the sum of 2 different columns, let's say column A1 and B1, or let's say any 2 columns, right? So the column header will be A1 plus B1, right? So when I go into my named range, right, the header will be changed, will be given a name. It will be assigned a name as, let's say, uh, income plus expenses, or whatever your A1 and A2 is supposed to be, right? So that is a very small difference between your actual sheet and your named range. But other than this, you will not be, I don't think there's any difference when it comes to sheets and named range. You can use both these uh, to perform the analysis in Tableau, right? It will work just the same, right? So now we'll be using the different sheets over here. Okay, and before that, let me tell you about this data interpreter, which is available over here. Now, what is this data interpreter? So data interpreter, it just cleans your data. It helps to clean your data. This we have connected our data source, okay, and you have something called data interpreter over here. So data interpreter, it helps to clean your data, right? What do you mean by cleaning your data, right? So when we create a sheet, for to make it user friendly, we have some titles, we have some stack headers, we may have some notes, okay, we may have some empty cells, empty rows or columns in order to add a white space and so on. We might have all these footers and headers in our data, right? So when we use this data interpreter, it helps to remove all those, it detects all these types of extra fittings, okay, which aren't needed for the analysis purpose. It bypasses all these items and it identifies the actual data with which you will be analyzing uh, you after connecting with Tableau, right? So this data interpreter comes only when you connect it with an Excel file, a comma separated file, a PDF file, and Google Sheets, right? This data interpreter works only for these types of files. So if you connect it with some other type of file, you won't be able to view this data interpreter. Okay. So yes, and now this is known as the canvas over here. You will drag your sheets over here. So let me drag my first sheet. Okay, so, so now I have my order sheet over here, and all the different columns and rows which are present in my order sheet will be visible right here. Okay, and I all I have to do is just drag a particular sheet and drop it in my canvas area. Okay, and then I'll have to jump to my sheet. It says go to worksheet over here, where I will be building my visualizations, right? But before that, let us just discuss about the different sorting options which are available over here. Okay, and after which I'll be explaining about this over here. We have 2 different ways by which you can connect your data source with Tableau. The first one is the live connection and the second one is an extract connection. Okay, right now by default it is always a live connection. Okay, so now we have been connected with our data source sample superstore in a live manner, right? So I'll just tell you all the basic formatting options over here, sorting and formatting options, after which I'll explain about these two, the differences between these two ways of connections. Okay, so as you can see, you have this sorting order. So right now it is in the data source order. Okay, you can either change it to A to Z ascending, right? When I click on A to Z ascending, all my column headers or column names, they will be sorted out in an A to Z ascending order, right? So I have only one sheet over here and the columns of this particular sheet are sorted in this A to Z order. Okay, you have Z to A descending and you have something called A to Z ascending per table and Z to A descending per table. So now why does this per table come over here? Okay, so at one point of time I can have a maximum of 32 tables in my canvas. Okay, so we have this joining process which can be performed. Let me have my second sheet. Okay, so as you can see, there's an inner join which has been created between the two sheets. Okay, we have four different types of joins which we can change it manually. Okay, we'll be discussing about this data joining and data blending soon in our upcoming sessions. Okay, so right now we have two tables or two sheets in our canvas. Okay, and by default an inner join is applied, right? So now when I choose A to Z ascending per table, okay, so first I'll have my the columns of my first sheet orders. Okay, and as you can see, you have the sheet name right on top of the column name, which indicates to which sheet this particular column belongs to, right? So as you can see, after this, you have the people table and you have the people table again sorted from A to Z, right? So it is A to Z per table or Z to A per table. Similarly, if I say A to Z ascending, okay, the columns of both the tables get mixed up in order to arrange it in an A to Z descending order. As you can see, I have product profit quantity which belongs to my orders table, and after which I have region which belongs to the people table, and again orders and so on. This is because it is not A to Z descending per table, it is a common A to Z ascending, right? And as you can see, you have two region columns over here. One is normal region and the other one is a region with people inside braces. So what does this signify? This tells us that when you want to create a join, you will need to have a common column, a common field by which a join can be established, right? So this tells me that the region of people is the field common. I mean, the region is the field which is common between both these sheets, right? So this tells me the field which has been used in order to perform a join, right? So this is just the, so we have something called manage metadata over here. So when you click on that, we have the different field names which are available inside my orders table. Okay, the table name is given right over here. And we have something called remote field name. So now what does this remote field name stand for? So when I go back to my this page over here, when I click on this preview data source over here, I can rename a column right here in Tableau. So no change is going to be made in my data source, but just for analysis purpose, just for my way of let's say how my how I should understand this particular column, as I would like to rename this, make it a short form of it. I don't want such a big column name. For example, customer name, I want it to be as CN. I don't want, I want to make it short. It might be any reason. So I can very well rename the column, okay, right here in Tableau. There's no change going to be made inside my actual data, right? So I can just double click on this option over here and I can rename it, okay, or I can click on this drop down arrow and I have this rename option over here. I can use that as well. So let me rename it as CN, okay, customer name, okay, CN. Now the column has been renamed, okay. So again, when I click on this drop down option, I can reset it to the name it originally had, right? As you can see, we have the customer name over here. So now let me rename it as CN, right? And now when I go into this manage metadata, so as you can see, the field name, it displays the field names inside Tableau, right? So CN, I had renamed my customer name to CN. But though I have made a change, only the field name displays the change, but the remote field name, it gives the original name as it is available in the data source. So with this, you can understand that field names are nothing but the names of the fields inside Tableau while working with Tableau, but the remote field name, it is the actual name of any particular field as it is available in your data source, right? So this is the difference between field name and remote field name. So at any point of time, if you have renamed your fields and you would like to view the original name of that particular field, you can use this remote field name uh, option, I mean this column, to just go through that, right? So we'll go back to it and I'll reset the name of this, okay. And then we have different file types, okay, available in Tableau. And as you can see, you have something called ABC over here, you have a globe symbol over here, and you have a hash symbol over here, you have a calendar symbol, and so on. So just click on that small symbol which is visible, and you can see these are the different data types which are available in Tableau. Okay, so this is a string data type. We have Boolean, true or false values. We have date and time, we have number whole and number decimal, and we have something called geographical role. So geographical role is nothing but it might be a country, it might be a state, okay, it might be a city. We also have airports which can be linked with the help of the latitude and longitude. We have built-in latitude and longitude, okay, which can be assigned as a geographical role data type. So geographical role data type is used while creating maps, right? So we'll just go through all those things as well. So basically these are the six different types, data types which are available with Tableau. So number as in decimal and whole, we have date and time, date, string, boolean, and geographical role. Okay, so this small symbol over here indicates which data type this particular column belongs to. Okay, yes. So and we can also find out the number of rows in this particular sheet. So right now 1,000 rows are visible. If I would like to say I need only the 5 rows, okay, only 5 rows will be visible. And similarly, if I want to find out let's say the 20,000 rows, so as you can see, 20,000 is a number which was greater than the actual number of rows available in my sheet. So when I specify a number which is greater than my actual size itself, it will automatically be converted to the original size. So when you click on this view data over here right next to my sheet name. You will be able to see the entire data, the total number of rows, and all the different columns which are available in this particular sheet, right? And you can very well hide and unhide a few fields. You would like to hide a few fields while the analysis purpose, right? You can very well do that with the help of let's say this drop down over here. You can just click on hide. Okay, so customer ID is being hidden from my view. Okay, so I can just click on this show hidden fields. Okay, after which the field which was hidden will be grayed out. Okay, and I can very well unhide it again in a similar manner. Okay, and we have an option to split as well. Okay, let me say, okay, I have my customer ID. Okay, first I'll have my country. Okay, so when I just for an example purpose, okay, I don't want to split my country as in a real time, as in a real use case scenario. So just this is just for explanation purpose. Okay, so when I go into split, okay, so it will ask the separator by which my column needs to be split. Okay, so I can mention the separator as hyphen or comma, semicolon, colon, and so on. Okay, and it will ask whether you need to split the first half or the last half or split all, right? And the number of columns which you need to create as and you want to place those splits in and so on. Okay, I'll just so let's say you can also split the product name. Okay, you have the split option, and as you can see, product name has been okay, I don't think product name is okay, it's not split. Let's say country. Okay, so you can just let's say column, I mean customer ID, you can just split it. Okay, I'll use the custom split, and I'll have to mention either it's a hyphen or a comma, and the separator, the delimiter, I have to mention it, after which I can separate either the first half or the last half. Okay, so this is the basic splitting option. If you need, you can use these options inside your analysis. Okay, so after going into the sheet, okay, see, these are the different splits that were created automatically with the help of the space as my splitter. Yes, I did not, though I did not mention anything in my product name split. I did not mention a delimiter. It has considered the space as the automatic delimiter, and it has been split into these many number of columns, right? In these cases, space has been chosen as the default split limiter, and in customer ID, hyphen has been chosen as the delimiter. If I want to mention anything else as comma, colon, and so on, I can mention it, which will then be used as the splitter, right? So yes, this is the basics about column formatting and sorting. Okay, now we'll be discussing about these two options over here, the live and extract connections, right? Okay, so now, as I told you, we'll be discussing about the live and extract connections, the differences between live and extract connection. So first, let me theoretically tell you what both mean, right? So when I place any particular sheet over here, those options are visible. Okay, I have live or extract. I can toggle between both. Okay, one at any particular time. I can either have a live connection or an extract connection. So as the name tells me, live connection is nothing but my Tableau is connected to my data source in a live manner. In the sense, there is always a connection between the data source and the Tableau, right? Your data might be in in any type of file, it might be in any cloud. So when I say connected in a live manner, there is always a connection which is established between Tableau and my data source. Okay, so one limitation or one, you know, problem which arises when we work with live connection is that the analysis speed or the way you are working with Tableau, the process speed might be affected when your data source is too large, right? There might be a few lags, a few delay while analysis of being performed, or when you're creating visualizations right here in Tableau. But one advantage when you have a live connection is that, okay, when you try to refresh, okay, your live connection, whatever changes that have been made in your data source, which it will be updated right here in Tableau. Okay, but this refreshing process can also be done when you have an extract connection, but you need an internet connection to perform the refresh when it comes to extract, right? So I'll just explain it once more. When you have a live connection, you need only when you have an internet connection established, live is possible, right? Because you are going to connect it all the way to your cloud or your server or your database, right? So you need internet connection which is established to have a live connection with your data source. Okay, in such a case, while working with the data that you have right now, you can just click on the refresh button, okay, after which your entire data here in Tableau will be replaced by the data which might have updates that has been done during the course of time, after which you have established the initial connection, right? Only when you click on the only on the refresh button, your data will get updated as per the changes made in your actual data source. Okay, but when you choose an extract connection, what happens is a snapshot of your data, of your original data. Okay, a snapshot of your original data will be saved right here in your system in the Tableau repository. Okay, so the processing speed is much faster because your data is right here in your system. Okay, every time you needn't go all the way to your cloud, fetch data and perform the analysis. Okay, when you have the extract, you do not have the data, but you have the snapshot of your data right here in your system. So when do we use this extract connection? So when this extract connection can be useful. For example, when you want to increase the speed in which you are performing the analysis, when you have a very large set of data and when you establish a live connection, the analysis speed might be affected. So in such cases, you can switch over to the extract connection. On the other hand, if you are traveling, when you do not have an internet connection, you can very well extract, get an extract or snapshot of your original data, and after which you can keep on working, keep on analyzing your data while traveling. When you are in an airplane mode or when you do not have an internet connection, you can very well use the extract, which will be saved right here in your desktop, right? So, and you can also refresh your extract connection, but only after you have an internet connection established. The particular update made in your data source will be reflected right here in your Tableau, right? So these are the two basic I mean, these are the two, I mean, these are the information about these two options available. Okay, I hope you've theoretically understood what are the pros and cons of each, right? So now I have a very small Excel file as an example by which these features can be explained. So now I will change the data source over here. So now I can also connect, multiple data sources to my Tableau. One might be an Excel file, one might be some other file. I can have two or more data sources at one point of time in Tableau and perform the analysis. Okay, that is the concept of data blending. Okay, we'll be discussing that with example as well. So right now, let me first change the connection. So I'm going to click on this drop down arrow. Okay, I can edit the connection, right? I'm going to edit the connection. I am going to connect this live versus extract sample, a very simple file, to my Tableau now. Okay, so by doing this, my sample store will be removed. Okay, and my live versus extract will be placed over here. Okay, so I'll just show you. Okay, this is that Excel file, my sample to explain about live versus extract. Okay, it's a very small file. It has a few names, the states to which these particular users belong to, the date of sales that has been done, and the corresponding sales. Okay, it's just for an explanation purpose, just an example file. Okay, so right now this is my data. Okay, and I'm going to perform analysis on this data, right? So I have connected this Excel file with my Tableau. I have only one sheet, and that sheet is visible right over here, right? So let me say data source order. Okay, so whichever order, as you can see, yes, whichever order it is visible in my data source. Okay, the same thing is the same order is being visible right here in my Tableau. Okay, so now I'll go to my sheet. Okay, so since I try to edit the connection, the splits that I made in my previous example or my previous data source remain over here as they do not belong to my data source itself. It belongs only to Tableau, so it remains right over here. So I'll just delete all these things. So this red exclamatory mark over here tells me that this particular, field do not belong to this data source, right? Okay, so now as you can see, I have date, name, state, and sales, which was available in my data source. Okay, I'll explain what are these dimensions and measures all about. First, we'll discuss about the connections, the two types of connections. Okay, so now I have my name. I'm just dragging the name and dropping it in my view or in my rows. You can use any one method. Okay, I'll have my date, right? And I'll have my sales. Okay. Yes. So now I have the information just as it is in my data source. Now I'll go back to my data source. I'm going to add another name over here. Let's say Shruti, who belongs to, let's say, Andhra Pradesh. Okay, and the purchase has been made on, or the particular sales has been done on, let's say 5th of May 2019, and some, let's say 40, just a random sales. Okay, so I have added a new row in my data source, right? And I'm going to save it. Okay, so now when I go into Tableau, okay, so my new field, my new row has still not been reflected. The changes that I have made to my data source has not been reflected over here. So now how to find the change? How to find? Okay, I'll go to my data source. Okay, so as you can see, we are connected in a live manner. Okay, yes, so we are connected in a live manner, right? I'll go to my sheet. And now how do we refresh this, right? So now how do I bring the changes here in Tableau? Okay, all I have to do is, this is my data name. I'll just click over here and I'll choose this refresh option, which is available over here. So when I refresh my data source, okay, okay. So now, as you can see, the row that I had added in my data source is being reflected in my data here in Tableau. Okay, so just right click on your data source, choose this refresh button. Okay, after which the updates will be reflected right here in your Tableau, right? So this is with the help of the live connection. This is what happens in a live connection. So how do you refresh a live connection? Just right click and choose this refresh button. Okay, now let's see what happens in a extract connection. So if I want to choose my data source to be connected in an extract manner, just click on this extract. So as it says, extract will include all the data. So right now, what are the different fields which are available? All the necessary columns and rows which are available in my data will be included in the extract. So when I try, so my new field is right now added inside the data as well. Okay, so which means this field is also included in the extract which has been created. So now when I try to go to my sheet in order to perform my analysis, it will ask me. So now sheet 1 live versus extract sample. So save extract as. So this is going to be saved as a Tableau data extract in my Tableau repository, right? So I'll say save. Okay, right. So now my extract has been saved right here in my system. Okay, so right now I do not need my internet connection in order to work, in order to analyze my data source. Okay, so similarly, we have everything just as the same, but you will notice one small change which will indicate that you are connected in an extract manner. Okay, so I'll just show you. See, I did not show you when we were in a live connection. So while we are connected in an extract manner, you will see two cylinders over here. So one indicates the actual data source and the second cylinder indicates the extract which is saved right here in your system, right? So right now, as I was telling you, we have two cylinders over here, okay, which tells me that we have been connected to our data source in an extract manner. Okay, so now I am going back to my data source, okay, and I'm going to add another name, say from some state, and the sales has been made on 10th May 2019. Okay, and let the sales be some random number. Okay, so now I have added another row in my data source. I am going to save it. Okay, and after which I move into my Tableau. So now again I would like to refresh the data inside Tableau. I'm right clicking on it and I'm clicking on refresh. Right, as you can see, my field that I had added right over here, my last row, is still not being reflected inside my Tableau. Though I had made a refresh, right, this is not being reflected in my Tableau. Now, why is that? Because this refresh button works only for a live connection. So since we are connected in an extract manner, I will have to go into this extract, which is available over here, and then click on refresh. Okay, so as you can see, the entire content of the extract will be replaced during the extract refresh, right? If you have modified filters or hidden fields, lost during, yeah. So when you try to refresh, as I told you, in an extract manner, the entire extract will be replaced with a new snapshot of your new data source, right? Now, after we went into this extract and then tried to refresh it, we have this column, I mean this row, which I had added in my data source. So I hope you understood, what basically the basic differences between your live and extract connection, the pros and cons, right? So you can just toggle between, let's go into a live connection again, okay? And this tells me extract includes all data till this point of time. So this is when I had refreshed last, okay? So till this point of time, your extract will include all the data which was available in your data source till this point of time. Okay, so after this point of time, if I had made any changes in my data source, only after refreshing the extract, that particular change will be updated in my Tableau. Okay, and you might ask me a question when we have Tableau server or when people are publishing dashboards in the Tableau public itself. Okay, so when changes are being made in their data source, or when we have an organization, every minute there might be addition of rows, there might be changes that is being made in our data source. So how do we perform this refresh during such cases? So in our Tableau online and Tableau server, which is our sharing tool, we have options. Okay, we have scheduled refresh options. You can refresh your data automatically. You can set a timer. Let's say I want my data to be refreshed every 5 a.m. once a day, or every 2 hours once. I want my data extract to be refreshed, or I want my data to be refreshed. You can assign such scheduled extract refreshes. You have such options in Tableau online as well as Tableau server. Okay, you needn't every time manually go and refresh your extract. When you assign such a scheduled extract, automatically your data gets updated, and as your data gets updated, your analysis, it gets better because you have automatic extract refreshes that is being made, right? So yes, so this is about extract. Let me just move again back to my live connection, and I'll go into my sheet now. Now, as you can see, you have only one cylinder over here, right? I hope you remember when we were in our extract connection, we had two cylinders. One indicates the original data and the second one indicates the snapshot. And similarly, in a live manner, we have only one cylinder. So with this small difference, you can identify in which way, in which manner your data source is being connected with Tableau. Either it is in a live manner or in an extract manner, right? So I hope you understood the differences, the pros and cons between a live and an extract connection. Okay, it again purely depends on your requirement, on your usage, on your file type, I mean your file size, whichever way you want your data to be connected with, right? So while if you're just going to use Tableau for just the practicing purpose right here with our sample superstore, it doesn't matter. You can either have a live connection or an extract connection. That is in no way going to affect your uh, analyzing work, right? Okay. So now again, we'll go back to our data source. I will remove the sheet from the canvas and I'm going to edit the connection. I'll go back to my sample superstore, right? See, it's just clicks away, and as you can see, we had these field names in our view when we were discussing about the live and extract sample, right? So that is why we have these red exclamatory marks. So I'll just have my order sheet and I'll go back here and I'll just remove them from the view, or I can delete them from here. Right? Okay, so now we are back with our sample superstore data. Okay, so now as you can see, again we are in a live manner. We have connected it in a live manner. We have okay, the data source name still hasn't been changed, right? So it sometimes happens when we try to edit the connection over here. So though we have a data source over here, name a new data source over here, the change sometimes might take some time, or after a few, after you start working for some time, it might, I mean, it'll automatically change. So right now, let me just come back. Okay. So right now I'm going to connect it to a Microsoft Excel file, sample superstore. Yes. Okay. Yes. So we have our sample superstore over here. Okay, and as you can see, I'll just show, this is the PPT, the slides that we have been provided. You will have it in your portal inside my courses tab, inside 12th May Tableau batch. Okay, that's the name of our batch, and you can very well go through these slides. Okay, you have the way you can connect with Tableau, you have all the different informations that we had discussed. Okay, now regarding metadata and data blending, working with metadata, we had discussed how you can sort, how you can format. Okay, column sorting and formatting, all these options come under metadata management. Okay, and now today I'll tell you about what are these dimensions and measures all about. Okay, so Tableau is very intelligent. It differentiates, it divides all the different fields available in your data source into two categories, into dimensions and measures. So basically, dimensions are nothing but discrete data, okay? And measures are nothing but continuous data. So now why does it say discrete and continuous? How does it differ the fields? How does it divide those fields depending on discrete and continuous nature? So now let's say category or city or country. These values, they never change. For example, you might add a new country to it, but that particular country is discrete in nature. So that particular country name, I mean, I hope you understand what I mean by discrete. The value of it will always remain constant, right? But when it comes to, let's say, a discount or profit, quantity or sales, your sales might keep changing every minute. Your sales might keep changing every year, right? So it is not constant at any particular point of time. It keeps changing. It is continuous in nature, right? So this is what it basically uses in order to differentiate between the fields. So dimensions consist of those fields which are discrete in nature, and measures will consist of those fields which are continuous in nature, right? So I'll just show you, how, what major differences are there between these between the fields, under these two headings, under dimensions and measures. Okay, so basically when you have a blue color, it means it is discrete in nature, and it means it comes under a dimension. And when you have discount, I mean when you have a green color, okay, it means it is continuous in nature and it is placed under measure, right? So let me just show you how to create a simple view in Tableau. Okay, so this is our workspace. This is our sheet 1 over here. Okay, I'll just drag any of my fields and place it into my rows and columns. Now this space over here is known as the rows shelf, and this place over here is known as the columns shelf. Okay, So I'll place my category in my row shelf, or you can also place it in your column shelf. Okay, and I'll have one measure, or one field under measure, which is continuous in nature. I'll place it in my columns. So now, as you can see, I have created, I can easily swap these uh, fields in my rows and columns with the help of this icon over here. This is the swap icon. Control plus W is the shortcut. When I just click on this, all the fields in my rows will be moved into columns, and all the fields in my columns will be moved into rows. So now, as you can see, I'll just click on this icon. As you can see, my sales has moved into rows and category into columns. So this is a very simple visualizations that we have created now. Okay, so what will happen? We have different marks over here, right? We have so many different marks. We'll be discussing about each and every mark, right? So now to tell you the difference between dimensions and measures, what I'll do is I'll try to, let's say, region. I'll just drag and drop region into the colors mark. Okay, now let's see what happens. I'm just dragging region and dropping into my colors mark. So each particular category is my dimension. Okay, it is discrete in nature. So each particular category is being divided into 4 colors. Now, why 4 colors? Okay, so I have placed region in my colors mark, and region is nothing but a discrete field. Okay, discrete in the sense I have a countable number of values, or it has a finite number of members in its column. I mean, this particular field has a finite number of members. So as you can see, I have the color legend over here. So my region field consists of 4 different values, of 4 different members: central, east, south, and west. And each region has been assigned a unique color, right? And this indicates the western region, southern region, eastern, and central, right? So each particular category tells me the sales done under each particular region, right? Similarly, I'll place some other dimension in color. Let's say segment. Okay, you can, let's say segment or ship mode. Okay, anything. Let's place our ship mode inside the color. So it is nothing but I'm placing a discrete field inside a color mark. As you can see, it is a discrete field. It has 4 members or 4 finite values. Okay, and each value is being assigned a unique color. Okay, right? So when you place on any particular color, your tooltip gives you the entire information required to know about this particular color or space, right? So this is what happens when we try to place a discrete field inside the colors mark. Okay, so now let me remove this. Now let me try to choose a field from my measures. Let me try to place a continuous field in my colors mark. Now what happens? Okay, I'll take my sales. Okay, sales is already present over here. Let me take okay, let me have my sales as well. Or okay, let me have my profit, any measure for that matter of fact. Okay, so when you place a measure inside your mark, your colors mark, now what happens? I do not have a finite number of values or members inside my measure, because it is a continuous field. Okay, and as you can see, a single color has been assigned, but with a change in shade indicating the lowest and the highest profit, right? Similarly, I can have any measure, and this is the way my view or my visualization will be given a color. Okay, there'll be a change in shade, and there'll be a single color which will be assigned to this field, okay, with just a change in the shade indicating that it is a continuous field. And as you can see, all my continuous fields will be aggregated, okay, and the default aggregation is sum. Okay, so these are the basic ways you can try and find out the difference between a discrete and a continuous field. Okay, now I'll also show you a few other differences. Okay, let us try and place it in the filter shelf. Okay, this shelf or space over here is known as the filter shelf. Let me have my region, which is discrete in nature, inside the filter shelf, right? So now, as you can see, we can filter out the regions. Okay, there are 4 different regions, and I can easily, filter out. I can include only these 2 regions in my view. So when I try to have only central and eastern region, and I click apply and OK. So now there's a change in the chart. Okay, as you can see, the bar level has been changed because I have included only my 2 particular regions inside my view. I need the analysis to be done only for these particular 2 regions. Okay, so I'm filtering out the unwanted data. Okay, or I'm filtering only the necessary data. You can have it in any way, right? So now when I try to place region inside color, I have only 2 colors because I have chosen only central and eastern regions. I have filtered out the other 2 regions. Okay, so this is what happens with a discrete field. Okay, when I try to filter a discrete field. Now what happens when I try to filter out a measure or a continuous field? Okay, I'll have my sales inside the filter shelf. So just drag your measure, place it inside the filter shelf. Now as you can see, we had uh, the values with check boxes when we try to filter out a discrete field. But when it comes to a continuous field, we have, this is the way we can filter it out. So it initially asks us what is the, how do you want to filter on sales? How do you want to aggregate it? Okay, let's say as sum, that is the default aggregation. I'll go into the next dialog box. Okay, and now as you can see, we have different options over here. Okay, we'll be discussing each and every option in detail when we discuss about filters topic specifically. Okay, so now I'll just tell you the difference. I'm just telling you the difference of a discrete and a continuous field under each circumstance, how these fields behave, right? Yes, so this is how your measure acts. Okay, you can either set a range of values between which, okay, I need the values only between these particular, I need only the result, only the visualization in between these values, okay, to be viewed inside my view, to be used into my analysis. So I'm filtering out the other values. Similarly, I can have this option as well. So I can set a minimum value. Okay, so let it be, let's say this is my minimum value. So all the values at least this or above this are to be displayed in my view. I do not want the values before this range to be displayed. Okay, I can set the minimum value, and similarly I can set the maximum value. Okay, display values only maximum of this number, right? And similarly we have one more called special option. Okay, we can display only the null values or only the non-null values and all, right? So we'll be coming back to this again during our filters topic. Okay, so I hope you understood how a discrete field will act in your filters shelf and how your continuous field will act in your filter shelf. Okay, and one more way, I'll just try to create a map now, and I'll show you how your maps are colored using a discrete and a continuous field. Okay, so in order to clear the sheet up, so I don't want this visualization again. Okay, I'll just use this option over here. Okay, it's the clear sheet option. Okay, when I just click on this, my entire sheet will be cleared, right? So now I'll just tell you how to create a map. Okay, again, which is one important topic which we will be discussing in detail in our upcoming sessions. But now I'll just create a map and I'll tell you how your discrete and continuous field act on it, right? So I'll just choose any. In order to create a map, I will need a geographic data type field, right? So let me have my state. I'll just double click on my geographic role field, right? After which this latitude and longitude, which are the auto generated fields, they automatically appear in your rows and columns, right? And we have the state information over here. So this, I'll just create a symbol map over here, okay? Right? And if I want to name each state, all I have to do is just drag the state and place it inside this label mark, okay? By which all my different states are being named. Now, when I would like to color this out, okay, let's say depending on sales, okay? Now when I place sales inside the colors mark, the same thing happens over here, right? So the lighter the shade, the lower the sales, and the darker the shade, the higher the sales. So right now I think California is the darkest. So it has the highest number of sales, right? So yes, so this is these are the basics, of how your discrete and continuous field work when you are placing them in the filter shelf or in your marks type, whichever type of mark you have. Okay, and we have something called show me over here, right? So when you click on the show me, you have different charts which are being visible over here. Right now they are just grayed out. Okay, so what are these charts and how can you create these charts, right? So when you place your cursor in any particular chart, it gives you the information. So as you can see in this space over here, so I'm just placing my cursor in this particular chart. So it's a highlight table, right? And what are the basic requirements in order to create a highlight table? So you need one or more dimension in order to create a highlight table, and you need one measure for sure, right? So this show me option, it clearly tells you, so whichever type of chart you want to create, what are the basic necessities, the basic requirements in order for this chart to be created, right? So let's see, for a pie chart, I need one or more dimension, or I need at least one or two measures, right? So we have different charts. We have bar charts, we have horizontal bar charts, we have side by side bar charts. Okay, so we'll just try out one chart. Let me have my category. Okay, and I'll have my subcategory. Okay, and I'll have my sales, right? So with this particular combination, I have two dimensions and one measure. Okay, so it might be in any, it might be either in your rows or in your columns, so that is not going to affect the way you can create charts. Okay, so with these combination, when I have two measures, two dimensions and one measure, okay, so these are the different charts that I can create. Okay, so by default it is a bar chart that is being created. Okay, if I want, I can have a side by side bar chart, or I can have a box and whisker plot, or I can also have a packed bubble. Okay, see, as you can see, you can have a packed bubble, or whichever is precise. Okay, whichever suits your analysis, you can very well go and choose that option, right? So as you can see, we have a category under which all the different subcategories are listed out. Similarly, we have the other categories with the corresponding subcategories. Okay, and this bar corresponds to the sales which has been done in this particular subcategory. Now I can also swap my view as I told you. Okay, so each box corresponds to a particular category, and all the corresponding subcategories are present inside us. Now we can sort this out. It is all in a jumbled manner. So let me just remove my category. Okay, now I think it will be better for understanding. Okay, so now I have all the different subcategories. Okay, and the sum of sales, right? So when I try, you can easily sort them in the ascending and descending order by the sum of sales with the help of this shortcut sorting options in your toolbar. Okay, when I say sort, okay, as you can see, depending on the sales, okay, depending on my measure, let it be profit or any measure in this place, it will be sorted out. So I can also try and label my sales. Okay, as you can see, I needn't go into my tooltip. I needn't place my cursor and then get the information about sales from the tooltip. So since I placed my sales inside the label mark over here, I'm being able to view all my bar. All my bars are labeled with the corresponding sales of the particular subcategory, right? So this is being sorted out in an ascending order from the lowest to the highest. Similarly, I can also sort it the other way around. So by this, I can easily find out which category. I can also swap it up. So which subcategory has done the maximum sales? Okay, so by this way, I will, be able to find out the maximum sales, the minimum sales, or let me say the maximum profit and the minimum profit. Okay, just sort it out. As you can see, we also have negative profit. Okay, and the label, we have sales over here, so that's why there's a mismatch. Just remove this up and place profit over here inside your labels. So now as you can see, we have the highest profit, which belongs to the copiers subcategory. Okay, and we also have negative profit for a few subcategories, and the lowest of which belongs to the table. So though it might have a higher sales, profit is negative in nature, right? So these are a few basic ways by which you can keep creating your visualizations. Just drag and drop your different dimensions and different measures in your views, okay, by which different types of analysis can be performed. Okay, similarly, we have, okay, I'll just have my sales back here. Okay, so we have this tree map over here. Okay, so now this is nothing but a tree map. Okay, so as you can see over here, this symbol indicates the size. Okay, the size of each box corresponds to the profit. Okay, the color corresponds to the sales. So the darker the color, the higher the sales. Lighter the color, the lesser the sales. Okay, and the subcategory, is being labeled inside the label. So each box is being labeled with a subcategory. Okay, so you can keep changing the chart, or you can keep changing the measures and dimensions which are being included in your view, right? So this is the basic differences between your dimensions and measures, your the way it reacts or the way it performs when placed inside filters and inside your marks and in your visualizations. Okay, so yes, so now I'll just clear the sheet up. Okay, so now we have this option over here. So this Tableau icon over here. Okay, when I click on that, I will be directed to my start page. Okay, this is the start page of Tableau. And when I click on this again, I'll be moved to the sheet from where I had moved to the start page. Like for example, if I am in my data source and I would like to go to my start page, and again I'll be moved to the data source sheet, right? So then we have undo. So in Tableau, we have n number of undos. You can keep on undoing your data n number of times. Okay, there's no limit for undoing your data in Tableau, right? So this is the tool, the toolbar and the undo option over here. Okay, and this is the save option. Okay, in case you want to save any particular view, you can use these options, or you want to save all your visualizations. Okay, you can use these options. Okay, and this is about the data connections. Okay, you have to add any new data source, you can do that. Okay, and this is, you can pause auto updates in case you have assigned a scheduled refresh, right, in your Tableau server while working in your desktop, Tableau desktop over here. In case you do not want any updates to interrupt your analysis, right? You can very well pause the updates. Okay. And then we have this new sheet option over here. So we can create n number of sheets, okay, in Tableau. And this is one shortcut by which you can create a new sheet. So when I just click on this, my second sheet is created. I had only one sheet and this is my second sheet. Okay, or you can also go into worksheet and create a new sheet, right? And similarly, when you click on this drop down arrow, you have new worksheet, new dashboard and new story. Okay, these are the ways by which you can create a new sheet or dashboard or story, right? And we have something called duplicate over here. Okay, for example, if I have a base, some visualization that I have created in this particular sheet. Okay, so if I want this visualization to remain as it is, okay, as well as I want to perform further analysis in this visualization itself, right? So I can have the sheet as it is, I can create a duplicate. So I needn't go to my other sheet and start building this view from the scratch. This might be a very basic view, right? So it can be done in seconds. But when we have a very complex visualization with many dimensions and many measures or fields in my marks, okay, and with filters and so on. So when I want to create a duplicate of this particular visualization and I do not want to perform all these actions again right from the scratch, I can create a duplicate, okay, by which sheet 1 of 2 is created. So I'll have my sheet 1 as it is and I'll make changes to my sheet 1 and so on. Okay, so this is the use of this duplicate icon. And this clearing the sheet, I've already told you, everything in your sheet gets cleared up. And when you click on this drop down arrow, you can clear your sheet. Okay, you can clear the only the formatting of this particular worksheet and all these options. Okay, you can clear the filters alone, access your sizing and so on. Okay, this is the option of clearing. We have the swap option. Okay, we just now discussed about it. Okay, it just swaps from the rows and columns, the fields in your rows and columns, the sorting in ascending and descending order. Okay, we have this highlight option. We have different types of highlight. Okay, we have around 4 to 5 different types of highlighting options, which we'll be discussing in when that particular topic comes. Okay, and this option is just to enable or disable your workbook highlighting. Workbook is nothing but a collection of worksheets, dashboards, and stories. The entire set is known as a workbook, right? So you can enable or disable your highlighting, okay, to your entire workbook, or you can enable or disable the sheet highlighting if you had one. Okay, and highlighting can be done by any one of these fields. So okay, so these are the options which comes under highlighting. Okay, this is actually a very a shortcut menu for highlighting. Okay, and this is nothing but you can hide the mark labels. Okay, and you have this fix axis. This is used when we have our maps in our sheets. Okay, it is used to fix axis. Okay, this is about the size of our view. Right now it is the standard size. Okay, if you want to fit width, the entire width will be utilized. Okay, fit height is similar to the standard view. Okay, because the entire sheet is being, I mean, the height is being used. Okay, an entire view is just nothing but your fit width. Okay, so when you have complex visualizations, this will work accordingly. But basically, this is what happens when you change the type of view, the size in which your view is to be done. Okay, and this is nothing but the show and hide cards. Okay, so these are known as cards or shelves. So this is my page card or page shelf. This is my filters card or filter shelf. Okay, this is my marks card or shelf, and so on. So if I want to hide them or if I want to unhide them, I can very well use these options. So right now we have the marks card, filter shelf, page shelf, row shelf, column shelf. Okay, my title, which is nothing but this sheet 1 over here, it is being visible. Okay, and we have something called caption. So if I try to make caption visible, as you can see, this is just summarization of what is being visualized in this particular sheet. Okay, so this sheet gives the information about sum of sales for each category, right? Color shows details about region, right? Color shows details about region, and the marks are labeled by the sum of sales. So by default, a caption is created with the fields that are used inside the visualization. If you want, you can manually type in any caption, okay, some extra information that you need to provide inside, I mean, about this particular sheet. Okay, and we have summary. Okay, summary is nothing but similarly the sales for this particular measure. Okay, we have the sum, the average, all the different aggregations, right? And we have legends as well. So what are the legends? Right now we have only the color legend. Okay, we have shape legend and size legend. So we have the size mark over here. Okay, and we have shape as well. So when we have, okay, let me just remove this region from colors. Okay, my color legend is no more visible. Let me have my region inside size. Okay, as you can see, there's a change in size for each particular region. So as we had colors differentiating between the four regions, now it is being differentiated with the help of this size mark. So this is the size legend. So these legends, they just give information as in for which particular size belongs to which particular region, right? So it's just like a key to whichever mark, let's say size or shape or color. So this is all about legends. Okay, and filters. We can filter this particular visualization using category, region, and sum of sales, because these are the three fields which are being used in our visualizations. Let's say I want to filter it by category. Okay, as you can see, an interactive filter is visible over here, and automatically my category field has been moved into the filter shelf. Okay, so now I can choose any categories for which I want the view, I mean whichever category I want to be visible in the view. If I want only furniture category, only that is being visible. If I want only technology, only that is being visible, right? So this is all about filters, okay, and highlighters. So I can also highlight using this category and region, okay. I cannot highlight using my measure, and that is why I have only my dimensions over here, okay. So let's say I wanted to highlight by region. Okay, and this highlight is automatically created. Okay, and when I click on it, all the four different regions are available, and when I keep moving on each particular region, that particular region gets highlighted. Okay, this is a very basic feature of highlight, right? We have different types of highlight. Okay, we'll be discussing all these things in detail, right? So this is default highlighting option, right? I can also highlight it by category. Okay, we'll just try that. I'll just remove category from filters. Okay, and I'll try to highlight using category. So I have highlighting of region and category now. I want only furniture to be highlighted, and inside furniture I want only central region, eastern region. Okay, since we do not have filters, if I would have filtered the furniture option, okay, only the region of furniture would have been highlighted. But since highlighting is just we have all the fields, I mean categories in the view, okay, they are not removed from the view like filters. When we had filters, we had the other categories completely removed from the view. Okay, but that's the basic difference between highlighting and filters. Okay, and so I can highlight using these options. Okay, this is just to make your visualization more interactive and interesting. Okay, then we have this presentation view, okay, which can be used when you go in for presentations, right? And we also have the share workbook with others. Okay, we'll be discussing about that when we move into about publishing and sharing after creating a complete workbook. Okay, and so we have two sheets now. Okay, let me just tell you a little about how a dashboard looks like with what we have created today. Okay, let me delete this second sheet. So now I have sheet 1 and a duplicate of sheet 1 in which I have made it a few changes. Okay, so you can create a new worksheet, okay, or a dashboard or a story by either going into worksheet, new worksheet, dashboard, or story, new story, or you can use this tool icon from the toolbar, or you can use these options over here. So new worksheet, new dashboard, and new story. Okay, so this is how a dashboard looks like. All the different sheets will be visible right here. Okay, all I have to do is just drag and drop into my view, right? So all the filters, legends, everything will be visible in our dashboard as well. Okay, so this is how we create a basic sheet, and with the help of the sheets, we create a dashboard. And story is nothing but you have your sheets, your dashboards, everything in a single view, and that is your storyline. Okay, so we'll be starting with this note on file types. Okay, so as I told you, .twb, which is nothing but the Tableau workbook. This is your default file type in Tableau. Okay, it holds all the content on your worksheet, your dashboard. The it just stores the entire workbook which is created. Okay, it stores all the information regarding a particular workbook. So as the extension, as the name tells you, it's Tableau workbook. It holds all your worksheets, dashboards, stories, everything which comes under a workbook, right? It carries all the information regarding your data source connection and also the metadata created for that particular connection. Okay, it has information such as like what fields are being used in each view or in each sheet. Okay, how your measures are being aggregated, what are the different formatting that you've applied, the different styles of formatting, anything that is made to the dashboard or worksheet or story, everything will be saved. Everything this extension, this file type will contain all these sorts of information. Okay, but one main point about this file extension is that it relies completely on your live data source. Okay, as it does not, it contains only your workbook. It does not contain any data, okay, within the workbook file. So because of this, it is completely reliable on a live data source connection. Okay, so what is the use of this file type? This file type, .twb or Tableau workbook can be shared only to those people who have access to the data source, because as it does not contain any data, as it relies completely on a live data source, the people whom you share this workbook with should have and access to the data source. So only then they will be able to open the workbook and you know, see what particular analysis is being made inside your workbook, right? Else there is no point in sharing this workbook without the data for which this workbook has been created, right? So this is the default file type which will be provided while saving a particular workbook in Tableau. Okay. Next, we have the Tableau packaged workbook. We have it over here. So it's .twbx. Okay. So it bundles the data with workbook, with your corresponding workbook, right? So we had only your workbook information in .twb, but whereas in contrast, this packaged workbook, it contains both your workbooks and the extracted data, right? It also includes any picture actions, any geocoding that you have been added to your workbooks. Okay, it's just like you can compare it with a zip file, right? If you rename this Tableau packaged workbook as a zip file, you can open it in Windows and you can see all your workbooks and corresponding data files. Okay, it has the extracted data. So we have a file and extension for the extracted data as well. We'll be discussing after this actually. It's known as the .tde file, as you can see over here. Okay, it's the data extract file. So your packaged workbook .twx will contain your extracted data as a .tde file. Okay, and these files can be shared to clients who do not have access to the data source but who need to view the workbook, right? So your .twb, your Tableau workbook, will contain only the workbook information, whereas your packaged workbook will contain your extract file along with your along with the corresponding workbook. Okay. And when you want to save your file as a packaged workbook, when you want to save your workbook with this particular extension .twbx, you will have to go in to an extract connection and then save it as a packaged workbook. You cannot save your workbook as a packaged workbook when you are in a live connection, okay, because it includes a data extract file. You have to change your connection as extract, by which an extract will be saved in your Tableau repository, and after which you will be creating you will be saving your workbook as a packaged workbook, which will contain the extract data file along with your workbook, right? And we have the .tde, the data extract file. Okay, and as we had discussed yesterday during the live and extract connection, when we were working with an extract connection, before moving into the sheet, Tableau had asked me to save the extract in the Tableau repository, right? So that is the .tde file. So as we know, extract files are nothing but they are just a snapshot or a local copy of the entire data. Okay, it doesn't store any connection string. Okay, it shares only the underlying data and it cannot be refreshed, right? It improves performance as we discussed with the extract connection yesterday. So when you have this extract file in your system, your processing speed will be increased when compared to a live connection. Okay, so this is about the extract file, and .tde is a file extension which was available in Tableau initially. But as newer versions were launched, we have something called .hyper, in which our data extract is being saved nowadays. Okay, it's a new in-memory data engine, right? And with this new data engine, the extracts in Hyper, they take advantage of the improved data engine. Okay, it supports like faster query performance is being made, right? As when you compare with the data engine which was before. Okay, and you can also save larger extract with a faster analytic and processing speed when it comes to your .hyper file extension. Okay, you have many other benefits like you can create and refresh, faster when compared to your .tde file. And there's one limitation when it comes to your .hyper file. You cannot downgrade. Okay, you cannot downgrade because it's been launched only in the latest versions of Tableau, but because when you try to downgrade, you will not be able to downgrade it since this particular file extension is not available in the lower versions. Okay, so this is about the .tde or data extract file. Then we have the data source, Tableau data source .tds file extension, right? So when you connect with your data source for the first time, okay, you will have some modeling works or formatting works to do. Okay, and this particular .tds file, it contains the information required, like to connect to your data source, as well as other custom and calculated fields such as changing aggregations, creating groups and sets. Okay, all these changes which are being made inside your data source here in Tableau will be saved in this .tds file. Okay, so when you're trying to change the metadata, changing the metadata in the sense you will perform some formatting options, you'll try to split, you'll try to sort it out in some particular order that you wish to. Okay, all these kinds of information are stored in this .tds file. Okay, and by saving these changes as a TDS file, you can make use of the metadata changes next time when you use the file. Okay, so that's the use of this TDS file. It just saves the path and the necessary metadata changes, all these kind of information, but it does not contain the actual data. It is not like your data extract file, which will have the actual data. Your data source .tds file will only have the information regarding the data source, but not literally the actual data, right? So, and similarly, just like our workbook and packaged workbook, we have the data source and packaged data source file extensions over here. Okay, so as we went through the packaged workbook, so this is also something like this packaged data source file will contain the .tds file over here, which will contain all the information, the path, the way, all the metadata changes, all those necessary information about the data source. So your package data source will have your TDS file as well as your data extract, right? So with this packaged data source, you have your extract and the necessary changes regarding the information regarding the necessary changes made to the data source, right? When someone has access to your data source and would like to view the data with all the metadata changes, right, you can share the packaged data source to them, okay, as it contains the extract data and also the metadata changes that you have made as per your desire. Okay, so no worksheets or dashboards are contained within this packaged data source. It has only extracted data and the changes made to the and the metadata changes. Okay, and it can refresh the extract data as the data source is within the TDSX file, right? When you have an internet connection, you can very well refresh your extract just like we normally do with the extract file that we have. Okay, and it can also be used offline since it contains an extract. Okay, so this is all about the packaged data source file. And we also have a few more that are not listed on this table over here. Okay, a very some two or three more simple ones, right? We have the .tbm file. TBM stands for Tableau bookmark. Now, when do we use this Tableau bookmark file extension? Right? So it saves the worksheets when working as a team to create a workbook. For example, you are in an organization, you are planning to create a workbook with say some 10 to 15 sheets, and you have divided this work to your team, which contains 10 to 15 members. So each member will be assigned to create a sheet and they will save that particular sheet as a Tableau bookmark. Okay, after which you will be combining all the bookmarks which means you'll be combining all the sheets and you'll be creating a complete workbook, okay, with the help of all these sheets. So each user or each team member has created a sheet and saved it as a Tableau bookmark.tbm file, and after which you will be combining all the worksheets to create a workbook. So when you work as a team, when you want to share the work among n number of people, you can use this particular file extension. Okay, and you cannot create a bookmark from a dashboard page because your bookmark will contain only worksheets, right? That is one important point. So only worksheets can be saved with this particular file extension .tbm. Once you move into a dashboard, you will not be able to save a dashboard itself because dashboard is a collection of worksheets. So the lowest granular level, which is the worksheets, can be saved as your bookmark file. Okay, and then we have something called Tableau preferences .tps file. Okay, so like why do we, I mean, what type of information that this file extension consists of? When you wish to create a custom color palette, as in for your organization, you will have some particular color, some particular pattern to be present in all your worksheets, some particular theme for your workbook, like company brand colors or logos or any such kind of information which is unique only for your organization. When you need this type of custom changes, to be present in all your worksheets, okay, you can save these in as a .tps, which is nothing but the Tableau preferences file. And what is the advantage of saving these as a file? Okay, you can use this file across all your workbook because these changes will be applied to your entire workbook very easily. You needn't go manually and keep applying this custom changes, these color palettes, this theme for each particular worksheet or dashboard. So when you try and save a file with this extension, your entire workbook will have the same, color palette or theme which you have been used or saved in this particular extension, a file extension. Okay, and we have one more, which is the Tableau map source .tms. Okay, so when we need to create a map with Tableau, okay, we can also create custom maps. Either you can download it from a map box, you can get it from a map box, okay, or might be you can get a custom map from the web mapping service WMS server. Okay, you can use all these custom maps right here in Tableau. Okay, we'll be discussing about this in detail and practically with examples when we move into our mapping module. Okay, so and generally this custom maps are used to save with this file extension Tableau map source .tms file. Okay, and when you want to save the custom maps with your colleagues, okay, who are working on the same workbook or with the same process of analyzing this particular data source, you can share this file extension with your colleagues so that your custom map will be shared to the people whom you would like to share it. Okay, and next we have the lesser spotted file extensions. This is just for information. In case you come across any of these file extensions, you should know what it means. So they are very less spotted because they are the file extensions regarding the license activation. Okay, we have something called .tld. It's the Tableau license disconnected file extension. It contains information regarding the license of Tableau. And we have something called .tlf, which stands for Tableau license file. Okay, it contains the license file of Tableau, and you also have .tlr file, which is nothing but the Tableau license request, return, or response. So All these files are lesser spotted, and it is something which is related to the license activation, so we wouldn't be using that much when we work with Tableau. So apart from these, so the 8 file extensions that we've discussed today will be used while working. You might come across all these things and you might make use of all these file extensions, right? So we started with .twb, the workbook, Tableau workbook, which contains only the information regarding worksheets, dashboards, or collectively your particular workbook. Okay, the Tableau packaged workbook, which is the .twbx file, which will contain a data extract file along with your Tableau workbooks, so that whoever is not able to access the data source directly, they can be shared this packaged workbook, which will contain the extracted data and the workbook which has been made for the extracted data. Okay, and we have the .tde, the data extract file in which our extract is saved. We have the data source .tds, which contains all the metadata changes which have been made when you first enter into when you first open your data source, and it also contains the path. Okay, and but does not contain the actual data. And just like the packaged workbook, we also have the packaged data source, which contains the extracted data file with the .tds data source file, which contains all the metadata changes done to the extracted data. Okay, and apart from these, we have the, okay, bookmark is also mentioned here. Okay, so bookmarks, it contains a single sheet. So apart from, as we were talking about the Tableau bookmark, you can save only a particular sheet uh, as a bookmark. You cannot save your dashboard as a bookmark. So when working as a team, this bookmark extension will be very useful. And apart from the file types which are mentioned over here, we have 2 more, which is the .tps Tableau preferences and Tableau map source. Okay, and Tableau preferences, as I told you, it has the particular theme or color palette for your organization. It contains that information, and your custom maps are stored in the .tms file. Okay, the Tableau map source file. Yes, so this is all about the different file types that we have in Tableau. And while saving your Tableau workbook, you can just toggle between these different file types and save them. Okay, and as per your requirement, right? So this is all about the different file types. So after which we'll be moving into a new topic today, which is about data join and data blending. Okay, so for that we'll go into our Tableau and we'll try to connect it with our sample superstore. Okay, yes, so we have connected uh, our sample superstore data source with Tableau now, right? So we have 3 sheets. Now we'll first discuss about data joining. What is data joining in Tableau? Okay, so data joining is nothing but you can join any 2 tables or 2 sheets from the same data source file. Okay, you can join any 2 tables in your Tableau and perform your analysis. So when you want to join any 2 or 3, or you can join a maximum of 32 tables in your canvas over here at one point of time. Okay, so when you try to join, you should have a common field or a key or a foreign key, the common field between those 2 tables by which the join will be performed, right? So, and data joining, as I already told you, can be done only between tables from the same file. Okay, though you have similar information in another Excel file, and when you try to have 2 data sources, you should go to a data blending option, which is much better in that case. Okay, in our earlier versions we did not have an option to join when we had to join tables from 2 or more data sources, but in the latest versions we have the joining process also, but the way it works definitely differs okay, the how data join and data blend works differs. We'll see the differences one by one today. Okay, to start with, we'll stick on to data joins. First, we'll finish off data joins, and then we'll move on to what is about all about data blending. Okay, so data join basically can be done between tables or sheets which belongs to one particular data source. Okay, so here we have three different sheets. We have orders, people, and returns, and I'll have my order sheet, and now I'll try to join my second sheet. So yesterday we had only one sheet in our canvas and we were working with this particular sheet. We went into our sheet, we tried to create visualizations. Okay, so now we'll be trying to join another table with the existing table, and let's see what are the different types of joins and the requirements for a join to be performed. Okay, so now as you can see, the inner join is the default join when you bring in two tables inside your canvas. So this is the default type of join which takes place, and only because you have a common field a join is being possible over here. So when two tables do not have a common field or a key to join, you will not be able to join them in either of the type. Like we have four different types.
So if there is
Yes,
no
tell me.
common headers between those two
Okay,
sheets, then would
okay.
it give that join icon, or it would not? Like, do we have
Yeah,
to?
I'll just show you that. I'll just show you that. Now we try to join orders and people, right? So now let's try to join people and returns. So people has person and region, and when we try to join it with returns, so this is what it tells. It gives a red exclamatory mark telling that there's no common key between both. So as you can see, we have person, region, returned, and order ID in the returns table. So there's no join which is being possible. So this is what it shows when a join is not possible.
Oh, okay, good. Thank you.
And and in such cases, if we might sometimes have uh, a similar column in our other table, in our second table as well, with a different name. As I just told you, we have region over here. Okay, and in case we had, so region will consist of information like whether it's the north, south, east, or west. So if we have the similar content in our other table but with a different column header, let's say market, okay, at that point of time also Tableau will not identify the key because the header names are different, the column header is different. So at that point of time we can tell Tableau that this particular column in this table is equal to this particular column in this table, and please allow a join to be made between these two tables. So that is possible. So if we have such scenarios, we can definitely do that. Okay, and in our data blending example that I'm going to show you today, we have such a scenario. So we'll just go through that when we are discussing with that particular example. Okay, so right now we'll discuss about the joins. Yes, so as you can see, initially we have, I'll just type some random number and it tells me the exact number. Okay, it has, or you can just go into this icon over here and find out the total number of rows which is available in this particular table. Okay, so we have these many number of rows in my orders table. So when I try to create a join, okay, we have the same number of rows because the common key is nothing but the region. So all the data which is present, all the rows which is present in orders is being matched with all the rows which is present in the people's table. So there's a complete match as we have an inner join. So that is why we have the same number of rows. Okay, and inner join is nothing but all the information, all the rows which are common, which match in both the tables will be displayed. The explanation for all these joins is just like as we have in SQL, inner join, left, right, and so on, right? And left join, as you can see, all the information from my left side table will be included, and all the information which match both will also be included, right? So this diagram tells you, and when you place your cursor, you have the necessary information. It includes all values in the left table and all matches from the right table, right? And members without matches will show up as nulls on the right. Okay, so right now we do not have any null values because every row in orders has a match in your people table, right? And when we try to move into a right join, since we have a complete match between these two tables, now we are getting the same number of rows over here. And right join, as your explanation tells you, it includes all the rows from your right side table, including the matches from your left side. And a full outer join will again have all the rows from all your tables. Okay, so these are the joins that we have in Tableau. Okay, inner join is the default join. Okay, and we'll just try to join two other tables now. Okay, let me have orders with returns. So now with orders and returns, if you want to find out which is the key, okay, this will be displayed right over here. Your order ID of orders table is being matched with order ID of your returns table. And by default, it's a inner join. Okay, and as you can see, there's a change in the total number of rows because only these many number of rows are being matched with these two tables. Okay, and when we try to change the type of join, okay, you will have more number of rows as you are including all the rows which belong to your orders table, which will have all the 9,994 rows, and those that match with returns will also be included. Okay, so that is why there's a change in the number of rows. And again, when you move on to your right join, you'll have the rows from your returns table, all the rows from your returns table, okay, will be matched. I mean, and all those matchings with the left side table will be included. And again, your full outer will have the entire rows when you join both the tables. Okay, so these are the different types of joins, right? And when we do not have a key to join, you can very well tell Tableau, in case you have the same content with a different column header, you can tell Tableau to create a join. Okay, and before we move into blending, into data blending examples, okay, we'll just have a look at something called union, which is mentioned over here, right? So we have something called new union. Okay, union, you might ask me what is the difference between new union and outer join, full outer join, right? It is similar to union. So you might ask me what is the difference between full outer join and union. So union, if your data supports union, only then this option will be displayed over here, right? So only if your data supports union, this option will be displayed over here. Only if there's a possibility to combine all the different tables, or or any two tables as a union, this option will be displayed here, else it will not be displayed over here. Okay, and when it comes to joins, it appends the result sets horizontally, right? That is one point when it comes to joins. But when you consider union, your union appends the result sets vertically. Okay, so that is one difference between your join and union. Okay, your union will just combine two or more tables, okay, by appending values from one table to another, but in a vertical manner, right? So if you want to create a union, you have to just double click on this. You will have the different ways by which you can perform the union. You can just drag and drop your fields inside this space over here to the tables that you would like to perform a union on, or you have this wildcard tab over here. Okay, and you can include, for example, if you have n number of tables and you want all the tables with a particular uh, suffix or prefix, let's say you can use this asterisk sign. Okay, and mention, for example, if you have the month information. For example, let's say 2019, you have Jan 2019, Feb 2019, you have 12 different tables, or you have n number of tables for all the years with the months as Jan 2018, Feb 2018, and so on till 2019. And if you want to perform a union of only one particular year, let's say I'll say asterisk 2019 or asterisk 2017, all the tables which consist of this particular suffix 2017 will be included in the union. Okay, you can also try and exclude that. Okay, it's all up as per your requirement. Okay, and if you want your expand to be search all your subfolders and all the different folders which is available in your desktop itself, you can do that. Okay, so this is all about the union. So I think we'll move into our data blending now. Okay, and when you create a join, okay, I have my orders and my people.
Can you take this present example and explain new union with the example?
Present.
Okay. Yeah,
Okay.
with the orders,
Yes,
people,
ma'am, but
returns.
okay. Yeah, we right now we don't have the tables with we okay, I'll just try to make a union of these tables over here and explain. But with regarding those suffix and prefix which we try to include, we need to have tables with similar suffix or prefix. Okay. But now I'll try to make a union of these tables and I'll just show you. Okay, so I'll just double click on this union. Okay, I'll bring in my orders, just drag and drop it inside the space over here. Okay, so now I'm including my orders table inside the union, right? And similarly, I'm bringing my peoples as well. Okay, and if you want, you can have your returns as well, or you can stop with this. It's all up to you. Okay, so this is how you basically create a union. Just click on apply and okay. Okay, so as you can see, there's a union being made. This is the symbol over here. Okay, and the table name is completely changed, right? You do not have something called orders or people. Okay, the union is something that is being visible over here. Okay, so this is how you create a union, and you'll definitely have null values when you try to combine. Yes, as you can see, you have null values when there's a mismatch. When you do not have sufficient values, it will have null values, and this is what union is all about. This is very similar to the full outer join. Okay, but one difference is that the way it is being computed. So union is computed, it appends the result sets vertically, and your join will append the result sets horizontally. When you have more number of tables or more appropriate tables, when you combine such, for example, if I have the month tables as I told you, so my Jan will have 30 days, and similarly all my months will have similar type of information. So when I try to combine them, you'll get a better view, when you combine that type of tables. So at those cases, union will work, very effective. Union will be very effective in such type of use cases, right? So basically, this is how you create a union. Okay, and field names are in the first row, and you can edit the union again if you want. You can move in your tables or move out. You can include all these information. You can try and edit them, or if you want to remove the union. And sometimes this you have this option called generate field names automatically. Okay, sometimes you might not have field names for a few columns. Okay, at that point of time, you can manually create a field name. In those cases, when you try to make a union, you might have a few tables which might not have column names, or which might not have column names which are similar. At that point of time, you can manually do that, or ask Tableau to generate those field names automatically with the help of the content which is present inside the columns. Okay, and you can just remove the union with the help of this option. So this is what you create. This is how you create a union basically. When we have appropriate tables, it will be more effective. So it depends totally on your requirement when and where you want to create a join or a union between your tables. It all depends on your analysis process. Okay, and now I'll just show you when we have a join which is being made over here. When you go to your sheet, okay, you have your dimensions and measures column. Okay, right now we do not have any measures which belong to this people table. We have only two columns or two fields in people which are discrete in nature, right? So this is because, so whenever you create a join, when you go into your sheet, you will have your dimensions divided into those many number of tables which belong to your join. So these dimensions belong to my orders table, and these dimensions belong to my people table, and these are the measures which belong to the orders table, since people do not have any measures as such, right? So this is how your sheet looks like when you have created a join over here. Okay, so to explain about data blends, I have two Excel files with which we will be, performing a blending action, right? So for that, I'll just uh, close this up. I'll just open my Tableau again, and I'm going to add two data sources to perform a data blending action, right? So first I'll have my data blending sample one, which is nothing but the office sales. Okay, and before that, let me just show these two different files over here. Okay, we have something called office sales and coffee sales over here. Okay, so this is my office sales. So I have four different columns over here: the state code, the state name, the market, and office sales. Okay, and we have coffee sales over here, which consists the information regarding this particular data source, like product type, your product name, state, region, and coffee sales. So as we are trying to create a data blend, okay, why we are creating a data blend? Because these are two different Excel files, these are two different data sources. So when you try to combine tables from multiple data sources, data blending is the option that you should go for. Okay, and as you can see, we have one common field which is nothing but the state in both my Excel files, right? And we have something called region and market over here, as I just now told you while explaining about data join. The content is just the same. We have all the four different directions which are mentioned over here, right? But the column header is different. So Tableau will not recognize this as a key. It will recognize only state as a key. So right now we have state as a common field which will be recognized by Tableau. But in case we do not have the state column over here, Tableau will not recognize region and market as a key. So at that point of time, we have to edit the relationship between these two Excel files. Okay, and we have to tell Tableau that please create a blend with region and market as the key, right? Both these fields are common in nature, so please create a blend. So we will have to edit the relationship manually, right? So we'll see first with the common field which is already available how blending can be done, right? And then we will see how to edit the relationship in case when we do not have a common field between the multiple data sources. Okay, so this is all about our data source, the Excel files that we are going to work with, right? Okay, so now I have, and there's one more point over here. When you have your office sales connected to the Tableau, and then when you try to add another data source with this option, okay, it means you are assigning office sales as the permanent primary data source and your coffee sales as the permanent secondary data source. I'll just tell you that. We'll go into the sheet first. Okay, I have my office sales I have only one data now, one data source Excel file connected to Tableau right now. Okay, and now with the help of this option over here, add data source. Okay, I'm just going to click on this. I'm going to add another Excel file, and that is going to be my coffee shop sales. Okay, and as you can see, when I go into my sheet, I have two different data sources over here. So when I click on office sales, the necessary information regarding office sales is displayed. The dimensions and measures which belong to only to office sales is displayed. And when I go into my coffee shop sales data source, the dimensions and measures which belong to this particular data source is displayed right over here. Okay, but when you try to add your data source right from your data source sheet over here with this option, okay, what happens is, we'll just see that. Okay, so this is when I added a data source after moving into my sheet. Okay, so now if I can assign, I can change the primary and secondary data source as my desire. Now how do I do that? How do I assign the primary and secondary data source? Okay, so when I have, so state is the common field between these two. I'll just have my state. Okay, and I would like to compare the sales of the coffee shop and the office sales in one single view, right? So as you can see, I dragged the state from the coffee shop sales into my columns, and now there's a blue tick which is being visible right next to the cylinder over here. And as I told you yesterday, we have one cylinder because we are connected in a live manner, and if we have two cylinders, we would have been connected in a extract manner, right? So since we have only one cylinder over here and it has a blue tick, this means that you have chosen coffee shop sales as your primary data source, right? Now I'll have my coffee sales in the view in my rows, and I'll go into my coffee sales, just click on the other data source, and you have this link icon over here which tells you that state is the key with which both your data sources has been linked. Okay, and I'll drag my office sales in my rows as well. Okay, so now as you can see, there's an orange tick over here indicating that your office sales is the secondary data source. Now in what way does this affect your analysis, your performance? In what way does primary and secondary data source affect your view? Okay, so now data blending is nothing but it's a left outer join. So when you blend tables from two different data sources, the join which is being made is the left outer join. Okay, that is the only type which can be made when it comes to data blending. So when you say left outer join, you need a table on the left side and you need a table on the right side, right? And I hope you can visualize what I'm trying to say. Left outer join. Okay, I'll just show the symbol for left outer join. Right now we have only one. Okay, I'll just tell you that after finishing of this. Okay, and for when you try to blend tables from two different data sources, the join which is being made is nothing but the left outer join. So your primary data source will be the table on the left side, and your secondary data source will be the table on the right side. So all the information from your left side table, which is your primary data source, will be visible, including the matches from both the tables, right? And that is one way which by which your primary and secondary data source will affect your view, right? So right now we have coffee shop sales as our primary data source and office sales as the secondary data source. And as you can see, we have two null values over here because we do not have these two states in our office sales. It is being displayed as null values. Okay, but in the case of an inner join, this will never happen because only the matching values will be displayed. But since it is a left outer join, okay, all the information in my coffee sales are displayed, but only the matching ones in my secondary data source are being displayed with null values, right?
It is showing greater than two nulls, right? What is the meaning
Yeah.
of greater than
No,
two nulls?
it is no, it is not greater than two nulls. It is just telling that it at least has two nulls. It's just a symbol to indicate that it has two nulls. So greater than is has nothing to do with this symbol over here. Okay, it's just something like which tells me that it has two nulls. So there's nothing greater than which is related over here. Okay, please do not confuse this sign with a greater than sign. It just tells me that there are two nulls. That's it. It has at least two nulls in the sense I'll tell you. We'll just go into our sheets again and we'll have a look. Okay, as you can see, we have we have coffee shop sales, okay, as our primary data source. Okay, we have so many different states over here. Okay, yes, I hope you're able to see it now. Okay, and we have what are the different states? We have Kerala, we have Delhi, we have MP and Punjab, right? So we have these four different states in our primary data source. Okay, and we have only these two states which are common to our primary data source. We have only Delhi and Kerala which is common to my primary data source. So Orissa is not being uh, you know Odisha is not at all included in my blend because it is a left outer join. So I have all the different states in my primary data source, which is being visible over here, and only the matching values are being displayed in my office sales. See, as you can see, this is my coffee sales, which is the primary data source. It has all four different states, the values for all the four different states. But when it comes to office sales, I have only the matching values displayed over here, and I have two nulls because two values from the primary data source do not match with my office sales, and that is why it tells me I have two nulls over here, right? When we try to work it out the other way around, right, we'll try to have office sales as our primary data source now, and we'll try to have our coffee shop sales as the secondary data source now. Let's see what happens. Okay, so I'll go into my second sheet now. As you can see, every sheet, the primary and data source that we choose in every sheet is independent of the next sheet. Like every single sheet is independent of each other. So if I choose coffee shop as primary and office as secondary, this will not be reflected in my second sheet. My second sheet will start from the scratch. So right in this sheet I can decide the other data source as my primary and secondary and vice versa, right? So we had of coffee shop as primary and office as secondary. We'll move into our second sheet. We'll have office sales as primary. I'll take state from my office sales. Okay, and we had only three states in our office sales, right? See, we have only Delhi, Kerala and Orissa, and all the states are being visible over here. But when you try, and I'll have my office sales as well, right? So I am going into my coffee shop. So my office now, my office sales has been made the primary data source. I'll go into my coffee shop and I'll take my coffee sales and place it right over here. Now, as you can see, we have one null over here. Though we had around four different states in our coffee sales table, only three are being visible because these three belong to my primary data source, and only the matching values are being displayed over here with a null value in my coffee sales. So I hope you understood the change that is being made because the changes in the primary and secondary data sources. Okay, so the basic join, which is by which these two tables are being combined, is by the left outer join. So whichever is my primary data source, that particular data source, all the information regarding in that table will be displayed, and only the matching ones from the secondary data source will be displayed. I hope this point was clear so far. Okay, the difference between, and you can also see the symbol over here. My office sales has an orange tick, which tells me that office sales is a field or a measure which belongs to my secondary data source. And similarly over here, you have, when you go on to your second sheet, you have coffee sales, which is, given with a orange tick indicating that it is your field or measure from the secondary data source in this particular sheet, right? So this is the basic, way of how you blend your data. Okay, we can also create calculated fields. We can also apply some blending calculations if we require, right? So in our example right now, we have office sales and coffee sales. Now I would like to see the sum or the total sales, the sum of coffee sales and the sum of office sales. I want another bar graph which tells me the total sales. Okay, we can perform this, this type of calculation. This is known as a blending calculation. We are trying to blend fields, measures from two different data sources. We are combining it into one calculation, and we are trying to display that information as well in our view, right? So this is known as the blending calculation. So Tableau allows us to perform such calculations, right? Okay, but before that, let me just tell you one more point. So I tried to, add a data source after moving into my sheet. Now what happens, or why I did not try to add a data source from this option mentioned over here? Okay, there's a small change by adding your second data source using this add button, and by using this add data source button after moving into your sheet. Okay, let's see what happens. What is the change that is being made? Okay, I'll just delete the sheet. Okay, and I'll just clear the sheet. And once you clear the sheet, the blue and orange tick marks are disappeared, because right now you can choose your primary and secondary data source as per your desire, right? So I'll just try to close my coffee shop sales, and I'll go into my data source. So right now I have only my office sales, and in my sheet as well I have only one data source to which my Tableau is connected, right? So now when I try to add a data source with this option over here, okay, I'll add my coffee sales, right? We have office sales. I am adding another data source, which is my coffee shop sales. So now, as you can see, I had office sales initially, which is blue in color over here. Okay, there's a vertical line right next to it indicating that it is your primary data source. Okay, and we have the coffee shop data source over here, which is orange in color, indicating that it is your secondary data source. And by default there's an inner join which is being created. Okay, and similarly you have this blue and orange line over here indicating that this will permanently be your primary data source and this will permanently be your secondary data source. Okay, and this is one difference by adding your data source using this option and after going into your sheet. So once you add the data source after going into the sheet, you can manually change the primary and secondary data sources, as per your requirement per sheet. But when you try to add another data source in your data source page itself, this is the point which happens. This is the thing which happens. Your first data source will be made the primary, and your second will be made the secondary data source. And there's an inner join which is being created. Okay, and this is not, you can ask me, how is there a join being created when we have tables from two different data sources? Okay, so this is a feature that Tableau has introduced in I think after Tableau, I mean from Tableau 10. That's the version from which this feature was introduced. But before that, when you wanted to combine tables from multiple data sources, blending was the only option. Okay, you can try joining your tables as well, but one disadvantage is that your primary and secondary data sources will be fixed over here. But in our case, when we try to blend the data, okay, we had the option to change, to move between the primary, to change the primary and secondary data sources as per our desire. So again, I'm going into my office sales. I have only one data source, and I'm going to add another data source with the help of this icon over here. So again, we have, we'll go into a sheet. Again, we have two different Excel files over here, two different data sources. Okay. And we just now tried to, bring in our state and the sales information from both these data sources. Now, in case if we do not have a column which was common in between these two data sources. So now what can be done in such a scenario? Right, I told you we can edit the relationship between these two. So though we have state in our examples as a common, okay, as we have state as a common field, in case if we do not have state.
This thing, while starting, you said, while explaining about the data blending, you said that the data blending is nothing but an, it will be like an left outer join kind of thing,
Exactly.
right? But when you do with the data source section,
Sheet.
there I
Okay.
saw data source sheet. At
Yeah.
that time, when you add,
Yeah,
it
that is
shows
the
as an
inner join. Yeah, that is, you are creating a join over there. That's what I'm telling you. Initially, we do not had this option till Tableau 10 version. So we cannot join tables from two different data sources. But now we have that option as well. We have this, you can change the type of join. We had inner join when we tried to, have two multiple, when we had two data sources right in our data source page. So in that case, you are performing a join. But in our example right over here that I'm showing you, this is where we are trying to blend data. So there's a difference between data joining and blending. So I hope you understood now. Data blending is nothing but left outer join. But when you have a join symbol over here, you can very well keep changing the join, because we have added the other data source right in our data source sheet. So there's just two ways, okay? And by this way,
data joining can be done between two different data sources.
yeah, it can be done. That's what I'm telling you. Till Tableau, before Tableau 10 version, that was not possible. But right now, we have these options as well. But the way it looks, the way it your workspace, your dimensions and measures look will be different when compared to that of data blending. As I showed you, we had so right now, if we are creating a join, we'll have dimensions. We'll have the dimensions under each table mentioned separately, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'll just show that once more. Okay, I'll remove this. I have only office sales now, right? So now I'm adding another data source from this add option over here. Okay, and as you can see, by default it's an inner join. So this is a data join which is being performed right over here. This is not data blending, this is data joining. Yeah, and by default it is an inner join. You can keep on changing the type of join. And
So
when I go into my
this,
sheet,
yeah,
tell me, sir.
this sheet data through this option, by adding the data source, we can't do
Okay.
the data blending, or we have to do only through the sheet one. In like that only
Yeah,
we can do the data blending.
yeah, data blending is possible only by that method, because when you add it in your sheet, your primary and secondary data sources are fixed over here. Okay, and a join is being created between both. And when you move into your sheet, there's also a change in how your dimensions and measures are being displayed. Okay, but in our case, when we tried to perform data blending, we had two different data sources mentioned in over here itself, and each data source has its dimensions and measures separately. So it wasn't combined. So this is the basic difference between. So it is all up to you. If you want, if you feel fine with data join, if you feel fine with your primary and secondary data source being fixed, you can very well go on with this option. And if you feel you want to toggle between your primary and secondary data sources, you want to keep changing that, you can choose data blending option. So since initially we do not have a way to join tables from different data sources, we had the concept of data blending. So right now we have data joining as well as data blending with a few differences. So whichever you prefer, you can very well go forward with it. Right, so I'll just remove this second coffee sales. I'll go into my sheet. Okay, I'll have my sheet over here, and then I'll try to add the second data source, which is the coffee shop. So now I am going to tell you how to edit a relationship between these two data sources in case we do not have a common field between them, right? So all you have to do is go into data, go to a menu bar, click on data, and you can add a new data source with this option as well. Okay, and you have something called edit relationship over here. Okay, and this tells you that at this point of time coffee shop sales is being selected, right? So that is being selected, so that is the information which this tells you. And you can edit the relationship, and when you try to edit the relationship, you have this relationship dialog box. It tells you relationship determine how data from secondary data sources are joined with primary data sources, right? And here you can change your primary and secondary data sources as per your desire. Okay, and as you right now coffee shop sales is the primary data source because I have selected coffee shop sales. Okay, it is being if I have selected coffee shop sales, it assumes that I am going to use the fields over here, and it just tells me that since you have selected coffee shop sales, it is being mentioned as the primary data source. If I change to office sales, this secondary data source over here will automatically be changed. Okay, and automatically state is the key or column with which a data blend is being created, right? And if I say custom, so I can manually add. So these are the fields which belong to my primary data source, and these are the fields which belong to my secondary data source as per the information that I have mentioned over here, right? So now I'll say market. As you can see in the Excel files, I hope you remember, the market from my primary data source is equal to region from my secondary data source. Though the column names are different, the content within these columns are just the same, right? So when I click OK, there is a manual relationship that I have been created. Okay, market and region is the way by which now there are two columns now. Okay, the state is the automatic connection or the automatic column, which was common already in both. But in case if we do not have this, we can edit the relationship in this manner, right? So right now we'll have state, which is by default common in both. Okay, and now we'll try to see how to use a calculation inside after you blend your data, right? Okay, so now as we were discussing about data blending, we'll now see how to perform a calculation, how to include measures from multiple data sources in a single calculation, and how to retrieve the necessary information from that, right? So we have two data sources, the coffee shop and office sales right now. Okay, so coffee shop sales, it has 4 different states. Okay, and whereas my office sales has 3 states, right? So I'll choose my coffee shop. It has more number of states, right? So I'll choose coffee shop as my primary data source. Okay, so I'm bringing the state of coffee shop sales into the columns. Yes, so I have chosen the state column, the state dimension from my coffee shop sales. So by this, my coffee shop sales data source becomes the primary data source, right? After that, I will have the coffee sales measure in my rows, okay? And I'll go to office sales. I'll bring my office sales measure into my rows as well, right? So if you want, I can swap it up. Okay, as you can see, we have 4 different states, okay, from the coffee shop data source, and we have the corresponding sales. And similarly, since it is a left outer join, only the matching states from my office sales, which is the secondary data source, only the matching states values are displayed and the others are displayed with a null value. Now I would like to create a calculation named as total sales. So that calculation should display the total sales done in these states in both coffee say in both this data source as well as this data source. So I want to add up the sales of both these measures and I want that value to be displayed in my total sales calculation, right? So how do I create a calculated field? You have a small drop down arrow right next to dimensions. Just click on that. You can create a calculated field with this option over here. Okay, and you just name your calculation, let it be total sales, right? And now the calculation is nothing but it's just the summation of my coffee sales and my office sales, right? So right now we are inside the office sales, right? So I will say sum of office sales. Okay, since this office sales belongs to the data source that we are right here, okay, and when you try to say sum of coffee sales, now as you can see, since coffee sales does not belong to the data source that we are working on right now, it belongs to the primary data source. We have this the name of the data source, and then we have the name of the measure, right? So similarly, if we try to create a calculation inside our primary data source, let's see what happens. Okay, you can create this calculated field in any, or let it be a primary or secondary data source. There's going to be no change. Okay, so now right now we are in our primary data source and I'm creating a calculated field, say total sales. Okay, and over here you have your sum of coffee sales, which belongs to this particular data source, and your sum of office sales, which will be displayed along with the data source name, right? As you can see over here. Okay, so now there's an extra sum. I hope, no, it still contains an error. We have an extra closing brace over here. I think it should be fine now. Yes, the calculation is valid. So we are just summing up the coffee sales and office sales, which belongs to this particular data source. So this is the calculation that we have made inside the calculated field, right? So just click on apply and OK. And once you create a calculated field, it will be displayed right here under the measures pane with an equal to hash symbol. And this is the symbol for your calculated field, right? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this calculated field right next to the sales measures in my columns. Right, so now as you can see my total sales, when you place the tooltip somewhere over here, so this gives me the information about the Kerala state. The office sales is 2,400, of coffee sales is 1,300, and the total sales, it is just adding up the values of both the sales, right? But there's a small fault in this. When I say total sales, I should get the value of MP and Punjab as well over here. Now why is this being displayed as null? Okay, because whenever an integer value is added to null, null is being displayed. So we want to make a change in our calculation by which, though we have null values, just give me the actual values in case there are any during the summation process, right? So I'll just make a small change in the calculation, after which we will be getting the sales of MP and Punjab as well in our total sales. So that is what I want to happen when I say total sales. So I'll just remove this from my view now. Okay, I'll again go into my total sales, click on this drop down arrow. Okay, click say edit. Okay, so now there's a small change that I'm going to make. Okay, so I'll just use the function called zn. So this zn is nothing but the zero null function. Okay, so when you have a null, okay, that will be converted into zero, and during the your summation process, if you have any actual values, it will display the actual value and it will not display the null itself, right? So let's see now what happens. Okay, so we'll just see what happens and I'll come back and explain. Okay, so now we'll try and place this over here. Yes, so now as you can see, I'll just go into this again. Okay, so now as you can see, since my office sales had null values, I used the zero null function in my office sales measure during the calculation, because I wanted to change the null values of this particular measure as zero, so that during the summation process, the values of my other measure are actually being displayed. Okay, so this is the small change that I've made. I've added the zero null function. Okay, and as you can see, just when you place your tooltip over here, it tells you that this information is regarding the state of Punjab. There's no office sales being made, and the coffee sales is 880 and the total sales is 880 as well. So as you can see, the coffee sales for Punjab is 880. So this value is being displayed in your uh, you know your total sales as well, and this null values over here, it corresponds to this place over here. Okay, it is just telling me on the whole, in my view, there are two null values, and it is talking about the null values right in my office sales. So please do not confuse that, since it is placed next to my total sales. These null values indicate that there are two null values in my office sales, right? So this is how you can use calculations when you are blending tables from two different data sources as well. Okay, and this calculation can either be in your primary data source, or if you want to create your calculation in your secondary data source, you can do that as well. There is no change that is going to be made, right? So we'll go into our primary data source where we have the calculation, and now I'll just try to swap it. Okay, we have a vertical bar chart over here, and now I'll just try to label them so that you'll have the idea of what are the values of each particular bar chart over here. So when I try to label them, if I label the total sales, okay, so all my bar charts over here will have the value of only the total sales. Now, why is this happening? I want the total sales to be labeled only over here. I want office sales to be labeled over here, and I want coffee sales value to be labeled over here. Now, how do we do that? As you can see, you have three different bar charts over here. So the first one corresponds to your coffee sales. Okay, the second one corresponds to your office sales, and the third one to your calculation total sales, right? So go into your coffee sales. So right now we are inside coffee sales bar chart. Now bring in your coffee sales inside label. So only your coffee sales are being given the actual label. Then go into the office sales bar chart. Okay, this is the type of chart and it's my office sales. Go into your office sales data source, bring your office sales into label, right? So this gives the labeling of my office sales. And finally go into total sales and then go back and bring in your calculation over here inside label. So I think the labeling is appropriate now. Okay, you'll have a better understanding, and once the user sees this chart, they'll have a clear view of what is being displayed in this particular chart, right? And you needn't go and have a look at your tooltip. All the necessary information is displayed right over here. Okay, so this is how you perform a calculation in data blending. Okay, right. So after data joins and blends, okay, we are moving into a new topic now. So after this, we are moving on to a new topic about something called auto-generated fields. For that purpose, I'll just close this and we'll come back. We can very well, just edit the data source. We can change data source inside Tableau itself, but just to, make things familiar, I'm just, repeatedly opening Tableau and connecting it so that you'll get used to, how it is being done. So you'll just get used to the environment. So that's why only after you drag a particular table or sheet in your canvas area, you can go into your sheet. Okay, else you will not be able to move into your sheet. Okay, so right now we are back to our sample superstore data source. Okay, and as you can see, we have under our dimensions and measures, we have a few fields which are not available in our data source and which are italic in text. Like you have the measure names, you have latitude, longitude, number of records, and measure values. So these five fields are known as the auto-generated fields. So this is something which is by default created when we connect our data to Tableau, right? If we do not have any geographical field which belongs to our data source, we will not have the latitude and longitude being visible over here, right? So now why do these fields are present over here, and what is the use of these fields, right? So we'll just see one by one. We'll start with the number of records, okay, which is placed under the measures pane. Okay, we have measure names inside dimensions, and we have all the other four inside measures. Okay, so first we'll start with number of records. So as you can see, it's a generated field that counts the number of rows. Okay, it's an auto generated field. So now what is the use of this number of records? So just bring this number of records and place it inside this text. So as you can see, it displays the total number of rows which are present inside this orders sheet. Okay, so it has the total number of records. As it tells you, it counts the number of rows present in this particular sheet, right? And with the help of this, you can just see how these number of fields or number of rows are being distributed. When I say that, what I mean is, let's say I'll have my market or region over here. Okay, I'll just bring my region in rows. So as you can see, my 9994, the total number of rows, are being distributed in this way among all the four regions that are available, right? Similarly, I can also have, let's say, ship mode when I bring it into my rows. So I have four different ship modes: my first class, same day, second class, standard class, four different ship modes, and the number of rows are being divided in this way, among this, against this particular dimension, right? So you can easily find out the total number of rows inside your table with the help of this number of records auto generated field, right? So, and if you want to, verify whether it is exactly showing you the total number of records by as it showed initially, the 9,994, you can very well try and verify that. Just go into analysis in your menu bar. Okay, click on totals and say show column grand totals. So as you can see, this was the same number as your as we had in our data source. right? Your orders table had those many number of rows. Yes, so this is one way by which you can use the total number of records. You can find out in what way your total records are being distributed. Let's say my category. Okay, so this is the way, and the grand total is also being displayed, right? So this is the use of the first auto-generated field, which is nothing but the number of records. Okay, and then we have something called measure names and measure values. So now what are these measure names and measure values? Okay, so these are not from your original data source, right? Tableau has created these automatically so that you can build certain types of views that involve multiple measures. So in case you have a view in which you want to compare the profit, sales and quantity at the same time in a single view, you can use this measure values instead of choosing each measure from your measures pane. So this measure values will contain all the values of your measures. So as the name tells you, it contains all the values of your measures. Okay, and measure names is nothing but it will contain all the names of the measures. And why is it in a discrete, why is it under dimensions? Because it is of string type, so it is discrete in nature, and that is why the names of my measures, okay, my measures are nothing but discount, profit, quantity and sales. Okay, all the names of my measures will be stored in my measure names, and all the values of my measures will be stored inside measure values. So I'll just show you that if I bring measure names in my filters, as you can see, these are the different measures which are available right here, and number of records is my auto generated field, where latitude and longitude belong to a different data type, so that is not included. Okay, so if I want to include all these in a view, I can very well do that with the help of this single auto-generated field over here, right? That's the purpose, basic purpose of why we have these two right here. Okay, so I'll just give you some examples. Okay, we'll try to bring it in a view, and let's see in what way the view can be changed with the help of these auto-generated fields, right? So let's say we have date. We have a date field, okay, order date, which is of date data type. I'll bring this date field in my columns or rows, anything. Okay, and let me have my say any one measure, let's say sales. Okay, and as you can see, there's a line chart which is being created. Okay, so the automatic chart, when you have one date dimension and one measure, is the automatic, I mean the line chart is the automatic type of chart which will be created. We'll go through all the combinations over here and all the automatic charts that will be created with different combinations, right? So right now we have a date field, a date dimension, and a sales, which is a measure, and we have a basic line chart, right? So now what will I do if I want to compare profit along with my sales? And I want, so now, right now, two line charts are being displayed, right? So now if I want both these to be displayed in a single chart, I want to compare both these lines in a single axis. How do I do that, right? So, and I want to include discount as well. Okay, there are three different line charts, but I don't want this view. I want a single XY axis and all the three lines in the same view, in a single view, right? So now what do I do that? So instead of, bringing all these here, you can just bring your measure names inside your filter and say, okay, I want only sales, profit and discount. Okay, click on apply and okay. So right now I have filtered my measure names. I am including only sales, profit and discount. Okay, so now when I bring my measure values in my rows, Okay, there's some change that is being made. Okay, we don't have a proper line over here. This is because we have to go to a, yes, I'll just remove this. Okay, we'll have our measure values. Okay, we'll have our measure values right now inside filter. Okay, first I'll tell you how to create a combined chart with two measures, and then we'll go on to three measures, right? So first we'll go with two measures. So we have an option without using measure names and measure values, which is known as the dual axis. When we have two measures, you can use this dual axis option, right? See, as you can see, you have your sales this side, you have your profit this side, and you have your color legend. So and you can see a structure change over here, right? You have your sales and your profit, and there's a vertical uh, structure change, which tells you that you have created a dual axis chart. Okay, both your lines are being visible in a single chart. So by this you can compare both these measures in a single way, right? So now how do we do this when we have three different measures, right? We'll just see that. Okay, I'll just remove these two. Now, as we told, I'll go into my measure names. I'll select only my sales, my profit, and my discount. Okay, and I'll say apply and okay, right? Now I have my measure names inside my filter, right? And I have chosen only through three different measures. So now what I do is I bring my measure values in my rows. Okay, and now I would like to color it. So there's a chart, there's a mixture of all these three values. So I would like to color them up. I'll bring my measure names in color. Okay, so now as you can see, the lines are being separated. So there's different colors given for each measure. Okay, and if you want, you can also bring your measure names for a better understanding inside your label. So it tells me that you can very well identify the lines with the help of this color legend as well. If not, you can also label them. So this tells me that this is the line of sales. This is how my sales is being increased in these particular years, and this is how my profit is increased, and this is all about my discount. So just for an example purpose, how to include more than two measures. When you have two measures, you can go in for dual axis option. When you have more than three measures, or when you want to add, if you want, you can keep changing. You can edit the filter, you can include your quantity as well. Okay, and you'll have four different lines now, and there are different colors mentioned over here. So this is where your measure names and measure values are used basically, right? So I hope this auto-generated fields about number of records, measure names, and measure values were clear. Okay, so right now, till we go into our mapping session, so these three auto-generated fields will be used in our examples as well. Okay, so I hope what these fields are used for and what do they contain is understood now, right? Okay, so after this measure names, measure values, and number of records, we have something new. We are going to see how to create something called a hierarchy and how do we create folders, right? And before that, we'll just see how to manage metadata inside your sheet. You can also rename your fields inside your sheet. Okay, just as we did in our data source page, you can very well do that. Just slowly double click, I'm sorry. You can either slowly double click this, or you can very well go into this and you can rename this particular field. Okay, you can do that. You can show and hide any fields, with the help of this, just as we did in our data source sheet. Okay, and let's see how to create a hierarchy now. Okay, so now what is a hierarchy? So for example, if I have something called category. Okay, and I would like to have all the information related to category in one place. So by this, searching for a particular information or a particular field and navigation is very easy when we create hierarchies, when we have, so many number of fields, when we have n number of fields where you have to go in search of every field. So when you create hierarchies, like, all the fields related to customer, like customer ID, customer name, in a hierarchy. You can have your country, city, state, region, all these under one hierarchy. You can have your category, your product name, your subcategory, your product ID, all these under your, products hierarchy. So you can very well do that. This is just, for you to, it just makes easy for navigation, and searching for any particular field is made easy. That's it. So that is why we generally create a hierarchy, and usage of this hierarchy in your view is also better and easier. Okay, let's just see that. Now, right now we have category over here. Now, how do you create a hierarchy? You just click on this drop down arrow next to your field name. You can just say hierarchy, create hierarchy. Okay, or you have one more option. Just so whichever field you want to be placed in under this, just drag this subcategory and place it on top of category, and it tells you create a hierarchy, and by default the name of the hierarchy will be all the fields that are right now present in your hierarchy, right? So we can just give some random name, say category information. Okay, so I'll just say okay, and a hierarchy is created. This is the symbol for hierarchy, and I have my category and subcategory. Okay, and you can save your space under dimensions by creating hierarchies as well, right? So when you click on this, it just shows what are the different fields present under this particular hierarchy. Now, how do we use this inside the view? So just drag this hierarchy itself in your view, and as you can see, okay, I'll just place it in my rows, or let it be in columns, and I'll have my sales. So right now, as you can see, there's a plus symbol over here. This indicates that this particular dimension is a hierarchy. Okay, and when you click on this, you will get the next field which is being available in this particular hierarchy, right? So if I want, I can analyze the sales regarding the categories, and with one click, instead of searching subcategory and bringing it all into my view, I can just use this plus icon, and then I have the field which was in my hierarchy, right? If we had another field in this hierarchy, let's say if I have my let's say the product name, if I want it to be placed inside this hierarchy as well. Okay, as you can see, I can change the order. Okay, I want product name to be the last, so I can create such an hierarchy as well. So when I try and drag this hierarchy over here, I'll have these symbols. Okay, and you have different products names under each subcategory, as you can see over here, right? So yes, so this is where you can just again drill it up. Okay, and this is the basic way of how you create and how useful your hierarchy is in your view. Okay, and we have default hierarchies as well. Our date field over here, okay, is a default hierarchy. Let's see that. So when you place date over here, okay, and as you can see, we did not create a hierarchy, but I mean, but by default we have a plus symbol over here indicating that it is a hierarchy. So when you just click on this plus sign, you get the corresponding quarters for each particular year, and again when you click, you get the corresponding months under each quarter. Okay, and then again you'll have the days of each month under each quarter under each year, right? So this is the default hierarchy. The date field is by default as a hierarchy that we have in Tableau, right? So this is how you create a hierarchy. And similarly, you can remove your hierarchy just by clicking on this drop down arrow and say remove hierarchy, and your fields are placed back in their places, right? And so this is all about how to create a hierarchy. And then we have something called creating a folder. Okay, so now how do you create a folder? So now I would like to create a folder. Okay, yeah, just somewhere some blank space over here. Just say group by folder. Okay, and then go into, let's say, my city. Okay, I would like to create a folder. Okay, and you have, yes, you, after you have grouped by folder, you have to change this option, and only after that you will be able to view this create folder option over here, right? So somewhere some blank space over here, you just create a folder and you give a name for your folder. So right now I would like to create a folder with a name, say locations. So it will consist all the fields related to the locations, right? So I'll say okay, and now as you can see the folder symbol, your folder is created over here. But like your unlike your hierarchy, you could drag your hierarchy and place it in your view, but you cannot do that with your folder. You cannot drag your folder. It is just for the purpose of combining all the fields which give information of, which gives similar information. Like as in, I can also create a folder for category information. I can place my category, subcategory, and my product name, product ID, and so on inside my category folder. But one difference is that I cannot drag my folder right into my view. It is just to organize your fields into separate folders. Might be easier for navigation. In order to find out any particular field, you have to go into that folder, okay, and just find out. Now how do you place the necessary fields inside your folder, right? For example, we have our locations folder now. Now I want my country inside this folder, so just drag country, drop it into the locations folder. Drag city, drop it into the locations folder. Drag region or postal code, all the geographic roles we'll place into the locations folder. And we have state, okay, place it into your locations folder. So if I want any information regarding the location, okay, I'll just go into this folder and choose that particular field and drag it into my view. So the order in which the fields are placed doesn't matter, because we are not going to drag the entire location folder into the view, right? So this is just for you to easily identify or easily search for any particular field. So you can organize this as per your desire and requirement, right? So this is how you create a folder inside your dimensions pane, okay? And so we have just seen how to create a folder and how to create a hierarchy. Okay, so now next topic that we will be moving into is, I'll tell you the different marks. Okay, so as we were discussing yesterday, we have this column shelf over here and we have this row shelf. Okay, we have page shelf and filter shelf. Okay, filter shelf is one big topic, right? Because only after we finish off the filter shelf, we will be able to explain the page shelf, right? So now today we'll look into this marks shelf, right? What are the different marks which are available? What are the automatic marks created when we have different combinations and so on, right? So and all about titles and captions, as we were discussing yesterday. Just double click on your title and you can keep changing your sheet name. if you have something like product category wise sales in your sheet, you can name it as as you desire, or you can also insert your data source name over here if you want to give extra information in your sheet title. You can keep adding all these information, right? And if you want to change the font as well, all these are general formatting options that are available. So this is how you can change your title. Okay, and about the captions, you can just double click on your caption and you can edit your caption very well. Okay, so these are the two things which you can perform, which you can change in order to give some extra information regarding what analysis you have been made in your view, right? So now all about our marks card. Okay, so initially we have something called automatic. So without, I'll just remove my caption. Yeah, so by default, this T over here stands for text table. Okay, so right now it tells me text is the automatic chart because we don't have anything in our rows and columns. So when we start with Tableau, the automatic will be a text table. So now as we keep on adding our dimensions and measures to our rows and columns, the automatic keeps changing accordingly. Okay, so automatic, it just chooses the best view or the best mark type, okay, for your data according to what you have placed in your rows and columns, right? So first we have for example, we have both dimensions inside our columns and rows. Okay, so when we have, let's say, our subcategory, okay, and we have let's say category. Okay, as you can see, and you can very well fill these places with sales. Okay, for the different subcategories over here. Okay, you can have any combination, but the basic rule is that when you have two dimensions, when you have rows and columns both with dimensions, your automatic view will be a text table, right? So this is the first automatic view with this combination. So if you have both dimensions, any combinations of any two dimensions, you will be getting a text table by default, right? As you can see, there's automatic text mentioned over here. Okay, so this is the first combination. Next combination is that when you have, just now we saw when we have both dimensions over here, the automatic is a text table. Now what happens when we have both rows and columns with measures? Okay, so I have my sales and profit. Okay, so when you have both measures, okay, it's the shape mark which is being automatic in nature, right? So this shape tells you what it signifies, what it tells you about. Okay, so this is the second combination. So we have two dimensions, it will be a text table. When we have two measures, it will be a shape mark type, right? And the next automatic mark type is the bar chart. Now how do we create, when does Tableau create a bar chart? Okay, in what combination does it create a bar chart? So now when we just now discussed about two dimensions, two measures, and now let's see about one dimension and one measure. I have my subcategory, which is a dimension, and I'll have my sales, which is a measure. So right now, the automatic mark type is a bar chart. So when we have one dimension and one measure, this combination, it can be, anyway, you can swap it up. There's no necessary that your row should have measures and your column should have dimensions. You can have it, any way, but your automatic mark type will be the bar chart. Okay, so and next we have one more combination. So so far we've seen three combinations. The next one is we have date dimension, okay, and we have a measure. So this just now we discussed during our measure names and values. Okay, so when we have our date dimension as in one of our column or rows and one measure, so the line chart is the automatic mark type, right? So we just now went through two dimensions, two measures, one dimension, one measure, and one date dimension and one measure, right? So these are the automatic types, and you can very well change the path for a line chart over here. Okay, you have the line type, you have the step type, and you have the jump type. So these are the different path that you can choose when you have the line chart. Only when you have the line chart displayed in your view, you will have this path option right over here. Okay, and let's see about the different, all the other mark types as well. So we just went through the automatic text, bar, line, and shape. Okay, so now let's see how do you create an area mark type chart. Okay, area is nothing but it just shows the total values. Okay, it's just like a line chart, but the area below the line will be filled up with some color, right? That is an area chart. It shows how a particular dimension is contributing to the trend. Okay, and we'll just see how to do that. We'll have let's say a measure. Okay, and we'll have dimension. Let's say we have the date dimension. Okay, and as you can see, you can have your category in the color. Okay, and for each particular category you have been given a color, right? And this is the normal line chart. Now you have to change this into the area chart. Okay, so now if I go into area, so this is how you change it to an area mark. So the line below each every line corresponds to the category wise sales. Okay, so and you have the area which is being filled with color below each line. So this is how an area mark looks like, right? So this is also with the same combination, but area is not an automatic mark. We have to manually go choose it, right? So this is all about the area mark, and we have the square mark. So when do we use see, we have the square mark over here. So now when do we use this square mark? So it is generally used like when you want to show individual data points. Okay, your data is displayed using squares. Let's just see an example. To use a square type, a square mark, you should have both dimensions in your rows and columns, but one should be a date dimension. Okay, and the next should be let's say a category. Okay, and by default a text will be shown, because as we discussed earlier, you have two dimensions for which the automatic mark is text. Okay, so now when you try to place a measure inside, let's say profit. Okay, I'm placing my profit inside my measure. Okay, and it is converted into a square mark. So like each square gives me the information about the profit for each category under each year, and you have the color legend. So as the color keeps getting darker, okay, your corresponding profit information is being displayed with the help of the color. Okay, and this is also known as a heat map, right? And you can also use the square mark to create tree maps as well, right? So we'll be discussing all about the different types of charts during that particular session. So right now we are just discussing about the marks. Okay, and the next mark that we have is the circle mark. Okay, so it displays using filled circles. So as you can see, we have the circle mark over here. Okay, and let's see if I have two measures. So we just now discussed when we have two measures, it will be a shape. The automatic mark will be shape. Okay, and it will be an open circle. So if I change it to a circle mark, it will be a filled circle. So that is the change that we have between the shapes and the circle mark. So when I place, let's say I have my product name in details. So as you can see, for each product name, one filled circle is being displayed, right? And it gives the necessary profit information and sales information for each circle. Okay, so this is about the circle mark, and we'll again have the shape marks. Okay, we have different shapes that we can assign, right? We have two measures and we have the shape mark. Okay, so when you want to clearly see the individual data points, and also while viewing your categories associated with these points, you can make use of the shape mark. So the default shape is an open circle. Okay, I'll have the, let's have the subcategory in detail. Okay, by default you have the circle as the default shape. So if I want different shapes for each subcategory, okay, I'll have my category. We have only 3 categories, right? So if I want to give 3 different shapes for each category, all I can do is I'll go into this shape, okay, and I'll say more shapes, and I can assign a palette. Okay, so let's say you have so many different options available. Okay, if this is the default, okay, I'll assign the palette and apply. Let's see if my each, yeah, so by assigning my category into shape as well, my each category will take up a shape. Okay, you can change the shapes with these options. Okay, you can change the shape for office supplies into any different shape as you wish, right? Yes, so this is how, if you are placing a dimension inside my shapes mark, okay, each member of the dimension will be given a unique shape. If you do not have those many shapes, for example, we have customer names, we have so many number of customer names, but we do not have sufficient shapes. So during that point of time, the shapes will be repeated. And in such cases, using shape mark is not recommended, because your shapes will be repeated, right? So that doesn't give you appropriate information. So when you have limited number of members in any particular dimension, like category or subcategory or ship mode or segment, you can go on with this shapes mark, right? So these are the different marks which are available, and about the map we'll be discussing in our map section, and pie chart, Gantt chart, polygon, and density. Okay, we'll have the last 5 in reserve for to be discussed during the chart sections. So these are the basic combinations, okay, and the basic charts which we will be using in our examples, okay, and all the other marks we'll discuss as we move into the chart sections, graphs and charts. Okay, so we just went through different combinations. When we have 2 dimensions, it's a text table. Okay, when we have 2 measures, it's a shape automatic mark. When we have a dimension and a measure, it's a bar chart. And when you have a date dimension and a measure, it's a line chart. Okay, and similarly, when you have a date dimension and a another dimension, or let's say a product category or any other dimension, along with your date dimension, it becomes an area. If you place your category in colors, we just discussed how an area chart looks like. Okay, and also about the square and circle, and how to change different shapes assigned to your view. Okay, so we discussed about the marks, and I think we'll start with filters today. Okay, I'll just tell you what are the different types of filters available in Tableau, and in what is the order of operations, what is the filtering order of operations, okay, which is being followed. We'll just go through the theoretical part today. I'll just explain you how filter is being, carried out, which filter is being executed first, and the particular order in which it is being made, right? So we'll start with filters. Okay, now what are filters? Okay, as you can see, you have a filter shelf which is available over here, and we had already discussed a little about how our dimensions and measures work inside filters, right? So what is the use of these filters? Why do we need them, right? It just narrows the data shown in your view, okay, so that you can focus only on the relevant information as per your requirement. For example, I might have different ship modes, okay, but I would like to retrieve the information of only the first class ship mode, or only same day ship mode, or anything of your choice. So during such cases, instead of going through all the ship modes, I can just try and choose one particular ship mode. I can filter out the others and focus on only the relevant information. Okay, and this shelf over here, it also allows you whether you need your data that you have mentioned in your filter to be excluded or included, right? I have placed my ship mode inside filter. Okay, in case I want the information only regarding first class, I can check this box. Or if I want information of all the other ship modes excluding first class, I can either check the other three boxes. Okay, this is one way, or an easier method is I'll check the first class, which I don't want to include in my view, and I'll go click this exclude button over here. So now, as you can see, the first class has been striked out, which means I am excluding the information, the member which has been checked, whose box has been checked. So now I will be getting the information of all the other ship modes. So this filter shelf allows me to either exclude or include data in my view. Okay, and whenever you try to filter a field, you can choose any filter or any measure, any dimension on any measure into your filter shelf. And if you have applied a filter to any particular dimension on measure, that field will be displayed inside this shelf over here. For example, I have my category. I'm just dragging it and placing it into my filter shelf. I want information only about furniture and technology. Apply and OK. Now my category is placed inside the filter. So with this, I can identify that my category dimension, there's some filter being applied in this particular dimension. Okay, and we have a particular order in which the filtering is executed. Okay, we have 5 different types of filters. We have extract filters, we have data source filters, we have context filter, we have dimension filter, and we have measure filter. Okay, so what is an extract filter? As the name tells you, it filters the extracted data from the data source, right? So, and similarly, what is a data source filter? Data source filter, the filter will be applied right into your data source before you get the information, the data from your data source itself. Okay, so that is all about the data source filters. Context filter. What is a context filter? So we have dimension and measure filter. So dimension filter is nothing but a filter applied to any one of your dimension is a dimension filter, and a filter applied to any one of your measure is the measures filter. So now what does this context filter, what is it all about? So sometimes there might be a scenario where you have 2 dimension filters or 2 measure filters or any 2 filters of the same type, right? So I'll have my category being filtered. I want only technology information. And similarly, I'll have my ship mode also inside my filter. I'll need only my first class and second class. Okay, so when you have more than more than one, two, or three different types of filters inside your filter shelf. Now, how does this get executed? So we have the order of execution, okay, or the order of operations in which filter is being executed. So first, the extract filter will be executed. Any filter that you have applied to your extract will be executed. Then any filter that you have been applied to your data source will be executed. Then we have something called context filter, and then the dimension filter, and then finally we have the measure filter. But in this case, we have two dimension filter. So now which dimension filter will be executed first, right? Tableau will get confused and it will provide a completely different view which we do not expect, right? Because I want the category to be filtered first, and then under this technology category that I have included in my view, I want the ship mode to be filtered. But Tableau considers both these filters as the dimension filters itself. The order in which your filters are visible, the order in which your dimensions are visible in this shelf does not play a role. Like what I'm trying to say is, since I have my category on top and then I have my ship mode, it doesn't mean that category filter will be executed first and after which ship mode filter will be executed. Tableau considers both as dimension filters and they will be executed at the same time. Now, in order to solve this problem, okay, in order to solve this confusion, we will assign one dimension filter as the context filter. So by doing that, we are telling, according to the order of operations, the dimension filter will be executed only after the context filter. So in this example, I will change my, dimension filter. I'll say add to context. By doing this, okay, there's a color change, which means this is my context filter. This will be executed first, and then my ship mode, which is my dimension filter, will be executed. So these are the order of operations, and this is what we can do when we have a problem. When we have two similar type of filters, we can try using this option in order to avoid confusion, right? And these are the different types of filters, and we'll just see how to use filters, okay, and all about these extract, data source filters, context, dimension, and measure. Now I'll just tell you what is all about internal and external filters. Okay, so if I have, say, my segment in my filter, right? I have three different segments. I want only home office and consumer to be filtered. I'm not excluding it, I'm including home office and consumer. Okay, I'll click apply and okay. Now I am going to bring my segment in my columns, okay, and I'll bring my profit inside rows. So as you can see, it has been filtered. The segment, my corporate segment, is not being visible over here. Okay, so we have removed one segment type from the view by filtering segment dimension. Okay, and you can also try to show the filter. You can show this filter, and by this you have created an intent filter. The user themselves can change the filtering options. Okay, so you can either create a filter for any dimension by dragging it inside the filter shelf, okay, or else you can also choose this drop down option over here, and you can say, you can there'll be an option. Since I have already filtered, you can choose the filter option from this drop down box, or it is always better you just drag it into your filters shelf. Okay, and so now we have segment inside our view. Inside our view, in the sense, segment is a dimension which is placed in either the row and column, and we are filtering the view in terms of a dimension which is already present in our view. So this is known as an internal filter, right? So when your dimension or measure is a part of the view itself, okay, it is known as an internal filter. Now, what do you mean by external filter? Okay, so if I want, I'll just remove this. Okay, so now I have my segment and profit, no filters, right? So now if I want to see the profit for any one particular category of products, okay, though my category is not a part of the view. So right now I have only my segment and profit in my view. Okay, I'll just drag my category into filter shelf. I'll say only technology or only furniture, any one option, and I'll apply. There's a change in the bar chart over here. Okay, so my chart has been changed according to the filter that I have applied. It's a category filter, it's a dimension filter, but my category is a dimension not present inside the view, right? Though it is not present inside the view, I have used it to filter the information which is being displayed in the view. Now this is known as an external filter. So when you have your dimension in your view and you're trying to filter that dimension, it becomes an internal filter. And when you try to filter out the information in your view with a dimension which does not belong to your view itself, it becomes your external filter, right? So this is all about your internal and external filter. Okay, and as I already told you, filters are totally independent, right? The order of fields in your filter shelf, they will never affect the view, right? So this is about the internal and external filter. Okay, and I'll just tell you about the tabs which are available. We'll just have a brief introduction about those tabs today. Okay, so I'll have my subcategory inside filters. So now as you can see, we have 4 different tabs. We have the general tab, we have wildcard, we have condition and top. Okay, so general is nothing but you have 3 options. You have to select from a particular list. You have the list of all the subcategories in this dimension. You can keep choosing from the list. You can enter particular subcategory name in order to search it, or you can select all the values or select none of the values with these options. Similarly, you have custom value list. You can manually type in your the subcategories to be filtered out or included or exclude from the filter. Okay, you can manually type in the subcategories over here, and use all will automatically use all the subcategories present inside the filter option. I mean, if present inside this particular field. Okay, so this is all about your general tab, and you have a summary of what are the filter options that you've been used so far. So the field name, you have selected 0 of 17 values, and it keeps changing as you keep selecting. Okay, and this is about the general tab. Okay, and your wildcard tab is nothing but you can filter using these 4 options mentioned over here, right? So for example, I have subcategories containing, let's say, A, B, L, E. So this is something that my subcategories contain, right? So if any of my subcategory name contains this 4 alphabets over here, okay, this particular text over here, this string, if any of my subcategory contains these strings, it will be displayed in my view. Let's just try that. Click on apply and okay. So right now we'll just clear the sheet. Okay, I'll have my subcategory. Okay, yes, I'll again bring it to my filters. I'll go into wildcard and I'll say this is the text, apply and okay. Now when I bring my subcategory in my view, okay, so tables is the only subcategory with a string that I had mentioned. So when I remove this filter, I have all these subcategories. Okay, let's try one more. I'll say if my has A and B together, so that text together, what happens? I'll go into wildcard tab, I'll say A, B. Apply and okay. Now we have only labels and tables, okay, which had A and B string. So with it, you can also filter out the information using these options as well, right? And similarly, we have something called starts with. So whichever alphabet you want the subcategories to be displayed, which starts with any particular alphabet, let's say, okay, starts with A, apply and okay. And as you can see, all the subcategories starting with A is displayed. Similarly, you have something called ends with, let's say, S. Apply and okay. All the subcategories which ends with S, are displayed over here. And similarly, the last one that we have is exactly matches. So now I should type in a subcategory name which exactly matches. If I say table, apply and okay, there's nothing that is going to be displayed because it should exactly match my subcategory name. So when I say tables, so this is when this particular subcategory will be displayed. Okay, this is all about your wildcard tab, right? So, and we have something called the condition tab. So by field, so this I can assign a condition by which my filter is to be performed, right? I can choose any particular field, let's say by sales, and aggregation can be chosen from these options, okay? And your sales, you can just use this load option over here to load in the minimum and maximum values of my sales, of my sum of sales, right? So with the help of these minimum and maximum values, you will have an idea, as in please filter out or please display only those sales which are greater than, let's say, around 50,000. So with the help of this minimum and maximum value, this just gives me the range of values of my sum of sales for me to decide on what value I can mention over here in order to filter it out. Okay. So now this is just the same. If I say by formula, I will be typing in the exact formula, sum of sales greater than 50,000 inside this formula box. So both works the same way, right? And we have something called the top tab. So if I want to filter out the data, let's say I want to see the top 10 sales by sum of sales, okay? And I'll say apply. Okay, I should choose this. Okay, none over here. And I'll go to my top and I'll say top 10 by sum of sales. Okay, just apply and okay. So right now I have my subcategory and I'll have my, yes, I think I removed the filter. I'm sorry. I should just apply a filter top 10 by, I'll have my sales. Okay, so as you can see, first I'll sort it out and I want to display only the top 10, or let's say only the top 5. Now how do I do that? I'll bring my subcategory inside filters, go to top, by field, top 10 by the sum of sales. So just click on apply and okay. You will be displayed only the top 10 sales. That is why I sorted out in a descending order. So only the top 10 by the sum of sales measure will be displayed in your view, right? You can also try and change this. You can also say as bottom 10. So the least 10 subcategories by sum of sales will be displayed, right? So this is how you try to filter out using the different tabs available in the filter shelf or the filter dialog box, right?
So, this brings us to the end of the session. I hope now you have a clear understanding about Tableau. If you have any doubt or query related to Tableau, do comment it on the comment section given below. And if you want to become masters in Tableau, do check the link given in the description box. Thank you for watching the video. See you soon.